everybody. Hope you're having a great one in the Delaware Valley and beyond as we get ready for another fun-filled 4 hours on your midday show. Today, we thank you for joining us. We were supposed to be joined by Amy Fadul today. However, as Ray will attest, and actually Ray said this to me during the show yesterday, Amy came in with like a wonky eye. And she texted us beforehand, said she didn't know if she scratched or whatever. And then throughout the show, I'm looking at her, and she just looked up here. And Ray really was the one that said this. She started to look like crap as the show kept going on. And Ray kept telling me in my ear, and I was just like, all right, well, let it go, whatever. I think she looks okay. And Ray's like, nope, it's getting worse and worse and worse.
That's not true.
But, Amy's down with, she lost her voice also. In all honesty, I said to her yesterday on the last break, I said, look, you can say your eye's hurting or something. You're getting sick. Like, I can hear it in your voice. We can see it in her face. So we go to the bullpen and we go to our ace, Bill Colarulo. How you doing, Bill?
I'm doing all right. I'll do my best to try to replace Amy today. You can never replace Amy, but I'll do my best.
Your best is always good enough. I love that hat, by the way. I am not a fan of the old... What would you call that? What color red is that?
Maroon?
Is it maroon?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm not a fan of the old maroon but that hat looks good. I like that one.
Picked it up last night down at the bank.
Oh, did you really?
I was at the game last night. They had some hits last night, Bob.
Yeah, they got a few of them, a season high 18 to be exact. But we'll get into all of that. Ray, how are you today?
Doing wonderful.
Yes, and you were out shaping the youth of our fine city yesterday at a broadcast camp.
I was. It was nice. Good time.
Over at Villanova.
Yeah, good to see everyone there.
You give a lot of time, and I say this seriously. You are one that gives a lot of time to your former college, to high schoolers, to younger kids. I am very proud of you for that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Appreciate that.
Yeah. Grooming the youth, as I like to say.
Stop.
Stop saying that.
Please.
All right, we can't get into it, though, until we get through the front page.
Now, the front page. The stories everyone's talking about. 97.5, The Fanatic.
All right, so I have a phrase when I see people kidding around, when I'm excited to see them, or whatever, and Egan used to make fun of me for it, but, like, if I see Ray after a couple of days, Bill, hey, there he is, and it's like, all right, I'm happy to see you. Well, guess what? I was sitting out back last night watching the Phillies. My kids got me a big TV to put out back for Father's Day, Bill. So I was out there watching the Phillies, and they start playing the game and on. I go, there they are. I remember who they are now. The Phillies were back to normal last night. They win 9-2 over the Padres. Kyle Schwarber, and in my notes I wrote this down in all capital letters, crushed 2 home runs last night. He went 2 for 3, 4 RBIs, a couple of walks. His average is now up to 253. On-base percentage, 373. Love it. Love what Kyle Schwarber's doing from that leadoff spot. Rob Thompson's patience with him and all seems to be paying off. Just a lot of fun to watch last night. Alec Boehm, home run, 3 more hits, 3 RBI. He now has 60 on the season. Bill, check out these numbers. He's 11 for his last 18. 11 for 18 with 8 RBI in his last 4 games.
Wow.
He's fun to watch. Alec Boehm is scorching hot. Rafael Marchand, 4 for 4, 4 hits from the catcher. Got to love that. Trey Turner, Bryce Harper, Castellanos, Marsh, they all had 2 hits. Castellanos with 2 doubles last night. That's what he is to me. He's a doubles guy. He's a gap guy. That's what I like. Nick Castellanos gets 2 of them last night. Hopefully it's the start of something with him as the team had a season-high 18 hits. They also turned 4 double plays, and I think Trey Turner was involved in at least 2 of them. Good to see him back in the lineup. I'll get your guys' reaction to how the fan base treated him last night. Why not? That's something funny. I don't know why we have to look down on things that are, like, fun and funny. Standing ovations for Trey Turner. Hey, they seem to work. So why not keep doing them? The Phillies are now 48-24. Braves won last night. They beat the Indians 2-1. So the Phillies lead in the division stays at 8. Their record is the best in the National League. Tonight, 6:40, Aaron Nola, coming off a really rough outing in Boston in which he gave up 8 earned runs in 3 2/3 innings. He'll go for the Phillies tonight against right-hander Michael King. Strikeout pitcher Michael King he's I think he had 12 in his last outing, and he only pitched 5 innings. So he is a guy that will strike out a lot of people. He's 5-4 with a 3.58 ERA this year. Tomorrow, 1 o'clock game in the boiling heat. It's going to be hot tomorrow. But it's not supposed to be that humid from what I saw. So it's going to be 92-ish, but they say not that humid. Ranger Suarez goes against right-hander Matt Waldron. And then comes the big weekend series. The Arizona Diamondbacks will come into Philadelphia, and it's kind of a wonky series because Friday's normal, 6:40 game, but it's on Apple TV, which I know upsets a lot of people. That's on Friday. Saturday, you have a 4:05 start, and I think that might be normal or something. I don't know. 4:05 on Saturday. And then Sunday, you have a Roku game at 11:30 in the morning. So why are you shaking your head, Ray? You just don't like 11:30 on a Sunday morning?
Yeah, on the East Coast. For Roku. Ooh.
Yeah, right?
I'm already upset for whoever's screening calls here come Sunday morning.
I know.
Hey, where's the Phillies game on? We can't explain that to
How
you
do
over
I
the
get
phone
it?
here.
Yeah.
We can't do that to
It'll
you.
be like,
I'm sorry.
Do you have a grandson or do you have children? Please ask them.
Please call anyone.
Yeah, call
That's
anyone.
not us. We don't
Not
have
us.
the time to do this
Yes,
one.
we are putting it out there right now. If you cannot find the Phillies on your TV this weekend, on Friday, Saturday, or Sunday, whatever, please don't call the station. We cannot help you.
They will.
I know they will. And we will help them if we can. The Eagles found out the players will report on Tuesday, July 23rd, over a month away before the Eagles will take the field. Sixers, they can talk to their own free agents today because the NBA season has been completed. Paul Hudrick from Liberty Ballers, he's going to join us at noon to talk some Sixers, see what's going on there. On the national front, the Celtics, they won their 18th title last night. That's all we need to say. NHL, Edmonton at Florida tonight. Panthers are up 3-1 after Edmonton absolutely blitzed them in Game 4. So the Panthers will try to close that out tonight. So there you have it. There's the front page. There's what's going on here and all over the country. All right, I mentioned it, Bill, when I started off my front page. I said, yeah, there they are. I really did feel that way last night. And I felt we needed to see that last night. You were out at the ballpark. It was just okay, all right. That road trip, that England, that Boston, that Baltimore, that's behind you. Let's get things back to normal, and they certainly did last night, Bill.
Yeah, and I think Topper's first words to the media when he sat down after the game was, "It's good to be home." And damn, it was good to be home. 18 hits last night. They needed it. Things, not that people were panicking. We weren't panicking, but they did need that type of game where you just saw the bats come alive. And what Schwarber does in the month of June, Bob, we always talk about it, but it really is ridiculous that when June hits, this guy just takes it up to another level.
So I copied something down on my phone right before we came on air, before Dylan pinch hit for me in the crossover. Kyle Schwarber is now the all-time Phillies leader in at-bats / home runs after last night's 2 homers. He has it looks like a home run in every 13.1 at-bats for the Phillies in June.
Amazing.
Followed by Jim Tomei, Ryan Howard, Mike Schmidt, Rhys Hoskins, Bryce Harper. Some pretty heavy names there. So I'll tell you what, that home run he hit to center, I think they said it was the second longest home run he hit this year. He swings and just lays the bat down behind his back, and he's just like, yep, I got all of that one. It is. You can tell when I love to say when a player has confidence at the plate, you just watch and you can tell, like, oh, this guy's got it right now.
Yeah, I was sitting behind home plate, and when that ball jumped off the bat and you just watched it go, it was 441 feet, Bob.
Yeah.
I mean, it was Schwarber's here, man. June Schwarber is here, and the rest of this lineup too. It was good to see, obviously, Trey Turner back last night. But you mentioned Nick Castellanos. I've been hard on him. The whole city's been hard on him, as we should be with what he's done. He's batting, 204, 207 now, whatever it is. Not good enough, but he showed up last night, too. It's amazing what Turner sitting there at the 2 spot does to the whole lineup.
It is, and it's just a comfort level. And last night, like I said, I needed it. I wanted it, I should say. Need is a little strong. I wanted it. I said to my wife, like, the game was about to start, and she and my daughter like to watch shows on Monday, so I went to another TV in the house. But I said to her, I said, you know what? I'm feeling like you need like a 14-2 win tonight. Like I said, something outlandish. But when I was watching the game, and they go up 2-0, and then Schwarber does what he does, and you're just watching it, and everybody's getting hits. You're thinking, okay, I don't know did you feel like you needed to see this from the Phillies? You're going to get little skids like they just had in 162 games. I just needed to be reassured that, okay, something wonky just happened because you're over in England and then they force you to play 6 on the road consecutively. I think I just needed what they did last night.
And we talk about vibes a lot with this team, and they needed the mojo right. And this is hopefully going to get the mojo right. But we also can't not talk about the job Christopher Sanchez did. Because coming off of that rough outing by Zach Wheeler, you mentioned the rough outing Nola had a couple games ago. It was nice to see a starting pitcher come in there, throw 7 innings, only giving up 1 earned run. I like that just as much as I like the 18 hits.
Yeah, it's a great point. Now, it's funny, I called up his stat because I failed to mention it in the front page. 7 innings pitched, 6 hits, 1 earned run, as Bill mentioned, just 1 walk, 5 strikeouts, only threw 94 pitches also. Thought it was interesting, too, that you need 2 innings from your relievers. You're up 9-2. You're thinking, okay, give me the back end guys or whatever. I guess Alvarado needed some work, so Rob Thompson throws him in there for an inning. He gets his 12 pitches in, and then they put Ruiz in there to finish it out, and, he does what he has to do. But I mentioned this yesterday, Bill, and maybe I don't know if it'll catch you off guard the way it caught me. We've talked about how good this bullpen has been, and you're talking about the Stroms and the Alvarados and the Kirkerings and all those guys. Sir Anthony hasn't given up an earned run since May 13th.
I heard you mention that, and that caught me off guard because we keep talking about, Sir Anthony's not the same pitcher he was last year, but, man, that stat makes you open up your eyes and say maybe he is.
Yeah, it does, and it makes you say, oh, my God, that's another arm in this already really good bullpen that you can maybe start relying on even more because, I was just following along with the masses. He's not having that great of a year. And then, the other day I looked up his numbers and I said, let me just check something. All the way back to May 13th. This bullpen is absolutely amazing, Ray. And I don't see anything like anybody's doing anything. Now, Strom has surprised me with how great he's been. Yes, he gave up the home run on, Friday night or Saturday night, whatever it was. I guess it was Friday night. But he's been amazing. I'm a little bit surprised that everybody else, I think it's sustainable. You feel the same way or no?
Oh, yeah. These are the guys that could do it. I mean, this is something now I've adopted from listening to Ricky talk about bullpens, but the 4 out of 5 rule, you've got a lot of guys here where 4 out of 5 times that they enter a game, they're going to give you exactly what you need. And that's what you look for in a relief pitcher. I mean, that, to me, what you see, Alvarado, Strom, Hoffman, now you're getting it out of Sir Anthony, but you can look at the back end of this bullpen, it's got electric stuff to what the rest of the league is trying to chase. And you have other guys that you see potential in what they can be. You just kind of have to harness it. And I think right now they have a solid core, solid nucleus of guys that are doing their job with a few guys that you're like, okay, if this guy figures it out, if this guy clicks into place, good luck. Good luck getting to this bullpen, which you don't have to use a ton. It's going to be one of the fresher bullpens in all of baseball by the time we get to the end of the season if this pitching staff stays healthy because they just go deeper into games than almost anyone else.
Yeah, and so I talked about earlier, and Ray, I wanted to ask you this because you are one of those, all right, it's 162 games. I realize that there's going to be ups and downs, whatever. Did you feel a need last night at all like I did, like I shouldn't say need, a want last night of a win just like they got? Like, did you want that more so than maybe other games this year?
I wanted it for everyone else.
Because you thought people were acting a little crazy?
I wanted it for everyone else. I really did. I wanted all right, hey, deep breaths, everyone. We're still here. Last night was beautiful in the sense that, the only person that doesn't get a hit in that game is David Dahl. So you can live with a night like that when they get 18 hits, okay, people are going to stop freaking out about the offense. Nice to get Turner back. It's good to see Schwarber do his thing. Bohm keeps up the good hitting. Hey, we get to say positive things about Castellanos today, which is nice. Christopher Sanchez has himself a nice start. So everyone that's freaking out, oh no, without JT, is this pitching rotation just going to fall apart? Do all of them not know how to pitch anymore? We can relax a little bit on that as well. It was a nice day for everyone to kind of take, oh yeah, this team is pretty good. This is fun. I needed that more for everyone else than my own selfish need.
Right.
I'm still very much okay. It is still June, I think 18th at this point. This team was 23 games over 500 going into that game. I didn't need it. I wanted it for everyone else.
June 18th, I'm glad you mentioned that. Happy birthday to my niece, Megan, who turns like 20, like 2 or 3 today. I'm not really sure of the number, but she is my godchild, and she just graduated from LaSalle, so she's got a good month going on for her. But, Bill, did you feel that also? Like a want for, all right, and you were in a different spot because you're at the stadium.
Yeah.
So anytime you go out to the ballpark, the stadium, the rink, whatever, you always want to see a special game. But, like, over the course of 162, like I said, you're going to see those type of little ebbs and flows. I don't know why. I just needed a game like that last night.
You just don't want it to snowball. You don't want it to turn into something worse, and it didn't. And you talk about being down there. We got to give credit to our Phillies fans, man. I mean, not only do they show up in Baltimore, 3 straight sellouts, and before that, I think the Orioles only had 1 sellout all season.
Is that the weirdest thing ever?
They're
That's
a good baseball
young team at a great park.
Well, that's the thing. Look, we talk a lot about how this is a football town. We're a baseball town too, man. We are a baseball town too. And last night, it's a Monday in June, and there's 43,000 people in attendance. Unbelievable. Monday in June. That's what I was saying to my wife. Look at this place. That is the place to be. How weird was
that to say? That feel weird?
To say wife? I know.
Yeah.
I keep saying fiance, so I got to correct myself. Wife. So I said it. There we go. That was good.
Yeah.
But, yeah, look, you're not overreacting, and Ray says he's not overreacting. He wasn't overreacting. He wanted it for other people. But I will say this. This team is a very good team, Ray. And we talked a little bit about this on Friday, though. They need a bat in the outfield. They still need another bat in the outfield. And I know that's us being greedy. I need a World Series this year. Anything less is going to be a disappointment. So I want to go all in and bring in that bat in the outfield because, yeah, you got something from Castellanos last night. You can't rely on him. You just can't. You don't know when he's going to go into that disappearing act that he does every single season. We need a bat in the outfield, Bob.
You're not wrong at all. And, Ray will tell you that my only thing at the beginning of the season was I looked at this Phillies team and I said, you know what? The only thing that bothers me a little bit is that you have a light-hitting left fielder and center fielder. And outfielders, and I even said, like, Ray and I went back and forth on this. I said, look, that might be kind of old school of me. I do like boppers at the corner positions in the outfield. I do like boppers at the corner positions in the infield. And it just didn't seem like you had any of that in the outfield at all. Like Castellanos, if he gets you 20 home runs at this point in his career, all right, 20 plus, great. I always looked, and I bring this up a lot. Castellanos, to me, had to get 60. That was doubles and home runs combined. And last year he had like 67. That's exactly what he looked like. I look at Castellanos as a doubles guy. Always hitting the gaps. If he gets home runs here and there, great, that's fine. But when you have absolutely no real power from your left fielder or center fielder, that kind of made me a little bit anxious.
And when you talk about no power from your center fielder, we do have to talk about
we will absolutely
Rojas getting sent down last night.
Yeah, so we are going to talk about that when we get back. What's your thoughts on it? I'll tell you, I was kind of shocked, and I was one that said at the beginning of the season, like, yeah, all right, give the guy a shot and see what happens. That's fine. I don't mind it. You have a really heavy-hitting team, and to have a good outfielder out there, that's always a plus. But, I think Tom Alvord said it best. Like, it doesn't bother me a little. You're talking about a very light-hitting, good center fielder, above-average center fielder. Is that on the diagram of making a World Series team? I don't know. So Rojas going down doesn't surprise me. It just means Dave Dombrowski's going to make a move before the trade deadline. He's going to get another outfielder. I didn't understand all the upheaval about it. Also, let's not forget, to me, and I said this before, Johan Rojas in the field was way too nonchalant for me. And making bad throws. And, one-handed catches more than once this year that, he comes in for that hit his glove and bounced off. I needed that kind of guy who's playing for his major league life to be absolutely spot on everywhere else when he's a 220 hitter.
Yeah, especially when you're there for your fielding, like you just mentioned.
Exactly,
you're not there to
right?
be a hitter, so you can't be nonchalant in the outfield. But then I couldn't help but think it last night. There's that ball in the gap that Marsh doesn't get to. Does Rojas get there? It didn't matter last night when you're hitting 18 hits on offense, but does Rojas make that play that Marsh couldn't make? I don't know.
Maybe, yeah, and maybe he does, and that's an out in the game. Like, it's an out in the game. I heard all this, how many games has he saved you? Well, people go back to the playoffs last year. That's like he's probably played close to 200 games now, or 150 games, something like that. I understand loving to have a really good defensive center fielder. I do. And before he came up, that is how we described Marsh. I just, this isn't a huge, big deal to me that Rojas went down. Is it to you, Ray?
We could talk about this.
Okay, we'll come back and talk about it. Ray's got something up his sleeve. You can tell he's a little hot and bothered over there. All right, when we get back, we will talk about that. We'll have some Sixers to talk about also. Eagles, everything is on the table today. Bill Colarulo is with us. This is Middays. Bob Cooney, 97.5 The Fanatic. back, everybody. Thanks for joining us. Hello to all our YouTube friends and family. You know how much we appreciate you. Hope you guys are all having a great Tuesday. As the heat's coming, get ready for it. We got a lot of days that start with the 9 number coming up, Bill, and some humidity going to be there too. So I love it. This is my kind of weather. I love hot and humid. I don't know why.
See, I can handle the hot. It's the humidity that's always the tough part.
I don't mind sweating, and if I don't have to work to sweat, that's even better. Like, if I just sit there and start sweating, like one of my goals is to try to sweat every day. It comes easier when it's 90 and the humidity's like through the roof, you know? So
Ray, you're one of those guys, you get in your car, hot car, do you turn the air on right away?
I do, but here's the weird thing. When I used to play and stuff like that, and I had a real good sweat going, I liked getting into the hot car to keep the sweat going. And I wouldn't turn on the air to
Different
get the
breed,
sweat
Ray,
to go.
over here.
Yeah, I do. I like to sweat. It makes me feel good. Like, all right, you know, that's your body crying. It's your muscles crying when you sweat. Did you know that, Ray?
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
No,
that's what it is.
no
When
I
you're
try and keep
sweating-
all my muscles very happy, Bob.
Yeah, you like to keep them not crying.
Yeah,
Yeah.
smiling,
Okay.
joyful.
All right, so we're talking about your Phillies today. Great 9-2 win last night over the Padres. I think just something we all wanted, needed a little bit to kind of, you know, relax the soul, relax the mind. The deep breath comes out. Whew, there they are. Okay, that's good. But before the game yesterday, they send. Why am I blanking out? Johan Rojas out. And Ray, we kind of gave our thoughts on it. We have a lot of thoughts on it. A lot of our YouTubers are chiming in, too. So if you want to talk about Johan Rojas, 610-632-0975. Is this bigger of a deal than I'm making it? Because I'm just like, okay, he's a really good fielding center fielder, but he's a horrible hitter, and he doesn't look like he's getting any better here. You're going to have to make some moves in that outfield. Ray, where do you stand on it?
Yeah, I think the one way I look at this is in the actual sense that it makes versus what they could do. Like in the sense of no one has any options aside from Rojas.
Right.
So it makes the most sense
So
to
the
send it down
business
to keep
point,
the
you
depth.
have to do it,
Yeah,
right?
to keep the depth, it makes sense. All things equal, and we talked about this yesterday, I'd be cool if we were done with the Pache experience. You want to talk about a good fielding center fielder that showed me nothing hitting the baseball? That's him as well. I think Rojas this season, and I saw our YouTube commenters getting into it already with some of the advanced numbers of him fielding. It has not been what they expected. It has not been to the level in which they expected. But I can't say that I was not just like Bill last night watching that ball go into right center field. Like, ooh, I think Rojas has a chance to run that one down that Marsh isn't there for. I think sometimes you are punished a little bit for having the extended range you have. When we're like, oh, is he going to get there? It's because you kind of expect more out of Rojas, especially in an outfield where you have Castellanos in right field. I want a guy who has the most range possible in center field because Castellanos has no range. Like, point blank, the guy doesn't make any errors because he doesn't get to a lot of baseballs.
No, you don't think so?
No, he does not.
I'm not saying he's this wonderful, you know.
He catches the balls that are in his range.
He's
in
made some
Casty's
catches.
defense, though, some big plays in the postseason.
Yes, and if he had any range, those would be regular catches. I'm like, he
Man,
makes the catches. I'm very glad of it.
That one catch in the postseason was
Yes.
about an inch away from being a disaster, though.
Yes, and I'm very grateful he makes those catches. I'm just saying, with what they have in right field, the center fielder with more range, I would appreciate. Now, what it comes down to when we look at this outfield, could they go into this with Rojas and Marsh as your center field, left field, and feel comfortable with the offensive production right now? No. I think you've pointed out a million times, Bob, you need more out of him in terms of his swing. They need to work on that. They talked a lot in spring training about him getting down bunts and working on bunting. They haven't done it because, quite frankly, it hasn't worked. So they want to get that better for him. I think there's a world where he is the center fielder for this team and that works for them. But I think it's with a lot more work on him. And I think at this point, okay, if he's the one with the option, go develop him. And hopefully, hey, you dial it back up for him to come back up here and be a part of something special later on. It makes the most sense business-wise for him. And for what they want him to be, there's a lot of growth still to be had. But I can't help feel like if all things were equal, that would have been the decision they made yesterday.
Right.
I think the business has to come into this where they look at the depth of their outfield. They look at other teams that are depleted and don't want to give someone else the opportunity on someone they've already tried to develop.
It's funny, Bill. I kind of looked at it this way. You had two of the, like, kind of the same player in Rojas and Pache, where both very light hitting, both very good fielders. Great. Why is there two of them on the same team? Like, I'd rather have a bad fielding outfielder that can bop a little bit that I'm throwing out there, as opposed to, oh yeah, let's get these. Now, Pache has basically one full season under his belt in like the 5 years he's been in Major League Baseball. If you add up all his at-bats, he's got 501 plate appearances, 456 at-bats. That's like about equivalent to a full season. He's got a 180 career batting average with a 242 on-base percentage. The guy's no good at the plate. Like, I'm done with this. Well, something could come up. No, something can't come about. Like, I'm done with him. Why do you need a Rojas and a Pache on the same team? Also, if I'm building a World Series winner, which the Phillies may be, maybe they've gone about this outfield wrong. I like Marsh. I do. I like him. If he's your center fielder, look, there's going to be balls hitting the gap that other like maybe 90% of center fielders in baseball wouldn't get, with Johan Rojas being one of the 10% that would get it. I'm okay with that. But I need a bopper in left field if Marsh is going to be my center fielder.
Yeah, I'd rather put a bopper in center field, and his name's Luis Robert Jr., but we could talk about that later on.
We did yesterday a little bit.
Yeah, but with Johan Rojas being sent down, I understand the business side of it because he's the only one that has options. But to me, this just highlighted how weak the outfield is, that you were concerned on losing David Dahl's bat. I mean, David Dahl, was he on anybody's radar to start this season? And now we don't want to we can't option him, and we don't want to risk losing him because you need a bat in the outfield so badly that you're not going to send Dahl down. To me, that highlighted, hey, Dombrowski, you need to do something to that outfield. And look, we joked around. I don't know if you were here, Bob. I threw out the question on the show a couple weeks ago, hey, should Turner play outfield when he comes back? And we were kind of tongue-in-cheek about it. But now they're working Edmundo Sosa in the outfield. He's got 4 games in the outfield. Everybody was saying how ridiculous it would be to move Turner, who's played 45 games in the outfield. Now we're talking about Sosa taking practice in the outfield yesterday. It just goes to show how rough the bats have been in the outfield, that they're concerned about losing Dahl, and now they're working out Sosa. So I'd be shocked if Dombrowski doesn't make a big move.
Yeah, I think there's definitely a move coming. It would shock me more if a move wasn't made. But, you know, it's weird. You go into the season, and I was on board like most of the station, like, okay, throw Rojas out there. You supposedly worked with him all winter long to get that swing to where you wanted it to be. That's what's most disappointing. Is it him that didn't take the coaching into the regular season? Because I don't know of a player on the team, and we're talking about big boppers like Schwarber and Harper and those guys. I mean, he starts the bat at one ear and finishes it way over his head to the other ear with kind of a sweeping, it looks like a golf swing almost. Like, what the hell is this guy swinging for? Why didn't they shorten that swing? Why is he not swinging like a singles hitter that he should be? That's disappointing, and I haven't really heard this. Maybe that's one of the reasons, besides the business move, that they were okay sending him down, where it's just like, dude, you're not doing anything that we tried to teach you this winter.
And in reading about what they were saying, yesterday about everything, like the decision to move him down, it does seem like there's some bit of coaching that has taken place right here. It doesn't seem like it's just business. It seems like, hey, this is also a developmental move for him. And I would be shocked if they have not tried to coach up that swing.
Oh my God!
Given what Kevin Love, I'll put that one there. Kevin Long is all about. He does not love when you have a lot of extra movement, when you have a lot of sweeping motion. They try and simplify everything. They try and get it nice, compact, sweet, and that's been a hallmark of just about everyone he's worked with the Phillies. So I can't imagine that swing has been co-signed by Kevin Long. Like, that just doesn't seem like something that they would have done and said, yeah, that works for us.
Now, there's somewhere, real quick, Bill, there's somewhere in between. I'm like, okay, fine. They did that. That's fine with me. I don't think it's a huge deal because you have to fix part of this outfield anyway, no matter what you do with Johan Rojas. I think John Kincade put out a tweet yesterday saying, you know, sending down Rojas, you've just made this team worse. Is there somewhere in between on that, Bill?
Look, I just keep going back to the fact that whether it's Rojas up here, whether you kept him or didn't option him, whatever it was, the outfield's not good enough. So, you know, I don't know how much worse the team is by sending Rojas down. You still have a gaping hole at the plate when you look at your outfield bats. So I'm not going to say that sending him down was the wrong move. And you talked about his swing. You mentioned it's like a golf swing. Well, look, I golf, you golf. You know how many damn lessons I've taken in golf, and I still go back to the same damn swing? So you're talking about a guy in Rojas who's been a baseball player his entire life, 23 years old. To try to get him to change his swing now, I'm sure he's reverting back to some of his bad habits at the plate. So maybe sending him down will help. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, I was okay with him. If he's going to get taught how to hit major league pitching, and you have the coaching up here where your best coaching is, I was okay with it at the beginning of the season. It was kind of a look and see what it is. Because you had to bring Trey Turner back, because you had to get rid of somebody, it is the most logical move. But you're right about David Dahl. Like, that's kind of the guys that you're relying on with this outfield right now. That has to be upgraded.
But that goes right to what you're saying. They're looking at this outfield and begging for pop.
Yeah.
Keeping David Dahl around is not a, just glowing review of what David Dahl is right now. It's, hey, that guy showed us pop. We haven't seen that. We need that. We also don't want anyone else to get that if he finds it. If he finds the stroke and he ends up being a guy that can hit home runs for you. Like that, to me, right now, they're sitting there and they're in the Bob Cooney thought of, we need pop in this outfield. Dahl is our best chance right now on the roster of providing it outside of Castellanos in that outfield.
Yeah.
So,
or Edmundo Sosa, which they're working out in left field. Which
yeah.
I don't know. What do you think of that experiment, Ray? I don't know.
They tried it in spring training at one point, having him out there, and it didn't look natural, mostly because it's not. So I'll be interested to see with where it goes. I think it's more of a, hey, we like this bat. We want to see opportunities for him. I think it's going to end up more the situation that Bob doesn't want to see, where he plays more second base because Stott has not been anywhere near what they needed him to be so far this season. And I think they're going to continue to protect him against tough lefties.
Are we nitpicking a little too much? Because sometimes I'll listen to the station and I'll hear some things and I'll be like, wait a minute. We are talking about the 48-24 Philadelphia Phillies, who have the best record in the National League and who have been up there with the best record in baseball. I don't think so much here, but are we kind of nitpicking? I mean, this still is the best team in the National League.
I think we're nitpicking, but at the same time, I think we should be, because we're not talking about a team that hasn't made the postseason in a long time and, wow, they got a great squad. Look, they're going to get to October. To me, anything less than a World Series win this year is a disappointment. The way last year went, the way you lost in the World Series the year before, which you were basically happy to be there. No one expected that run. But I think we all look at this team and the start that they've had, and it's World Series or bust. So I'm going to nitpick every little weakness on the team, and the biggest glaring weakness on a team that's been this good this season is clearly the outfield bat.
So, look, here's what we're going to put out to you. We know Nick Castellanos is going to be the right fielder. I mean, that's just – I just stuttered, right? You don't have to write it down.
I was writing down my own. That reminded me to write down my own.
So Nick Castellanos is going to be out there whether you like it or not. And I heard this morning that there are some people that don't like it. And we're going to talk about this later because I strangely find myself okay with it. But Nick Castellanos is going to be your right fielder. What would you do? You can be specific. You can generalize. What would you do with the other two outfield positions? Is Brandon Marsh a guy that you say, yeah, he's fine? Put him in left, put him in center, or go get a center fielder, go get a left fielder. Maybe you're okay with what you have. Maybe Edmundo Sosa is the answer. What do you think the Phillies should do with those two outfield spots? 610-632-0975. Give us a call. Let us know what you think. You can also text that number because it does seem to be a little bit of a wonky area now, the left field and center field position. What would you do if you were Dave Dombrowski? Like I said, you can generalize it or be specific. This is Middays. Bob Cooney, 97.5 The Fanatic. Close to the 11 o'clock hour. Glad you're joining us here today on The Fanatic as Bill Colarulo joins us all day long, the freshly married. How's married life going, Bill? Is it good?
Incredible.
Incredible.
Nothing really that much different, but now she's my wife, not my fiance, but it's been great.
Okay. All right, perfect. That's what we love to hear. Hope you had a great Father's Day, too. Didn't get a chance to talk to you about Father's Day. You had to work on Father's Day.
I did, but
So
then
that stinks.
I got out of here, picked up my kids, went to my mom's, and she made my favorite crabs and spaghetti.
Oh, no way.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I love crabs and spaghetti.
The best.
I haven't had crabs yet this year. My brother-in-law took the boat out for the first time to go crabbing. He lives down in Maryland. He has a little boat off the an arm of the Chesapeake, lays out like a 1,500-foot trot line, and he catches a few dozen at least. It's not really crabbing time. Crabbing time is best in September, October.
Yeah.
But, he went out and caught a few.
Typical Italian family. So my mom makes crabs and gravy, and then she gives some to my grandmother, and my grandmother tells her it wasn't that good.
First time I had, so I've been eating crabs, picking crabs, since I was like 6 years old. 'Cause my sister, who's a lot older than me, she married a guy and they live in Baltimore. So, that's when I was introduced to crabs. And I love sitting and picking crabs. But I was an adult, probably, as recently as 20 years ago when I was introduced to spaghetti and crabs by my wife is 100% Italian.
Yeah.
By her mother.
It really is good, isn't it?
Ray, spaghetti and crabs, have you ever had it?
Yes, very good.
Yeah?
All in.
Okay, who makes Ray's the kind of guy who has great meals but never has really a hand in helping in the meal.
Correct. Yes. No, I think I've had it.
You live a charmed life.
I don't know. I just want to assume it was my nonna that made it, but I'm not positive back
Okay.
in who made it. But yeah, no, I live a charmed life. It's the way that.
He tells me this the other day, Bill. He's like, so I went down the shore and my dad and I we had some crabs and drinking some beer. So I said, where'd you get the crabs from? He goes, I don't know. I said, I thought you meant you went out to eat. He goes, no, they just had crabs where I showed up, so I just sat there and picked crabs. And
it was something he wanted to do for Father's Day. Him, my grandfather, and I sat there just picking crabs, drinking beer, hanging out. It was a great night. It was an ideal night, really. And I just kind of showed up. And
Some of my best childhood memories, my whole family, we would go crabbing. We'd come back. We'd catch like hundreds of crabs because there were so many of us. We'd have the assembly line cleaning them, and then my grandmother the following weekend would make a big pot of crabs and gravy. And it was just, we would do it every single year. We got to get back to that. We got to get back to that.
I'm starving for crabs right now. Okay, we're talking about the Phillies. Want to hear what you think. What should they do with this left and center field position? Because there's a lot of things going on now that Johan Rojas has been sent down. Is it good enough that you have Castellanos, Marsh, and fill in the blank here, either in center or left field? As Bill said, Edmundo Sosa taking some fly balls out there, hot bat that they've had. Is that somebody that they want to keep in the lineup and throw into the outfield? Let's not forget, good Phillies teams in the past have had guys like Kyle Schwarber playing in the outfield, Rhys Hoskins playing in the outfield.
Pat Burrell,
Greg Luzinski. You've had outfielders that are very questionable out there and have played for good teams. You can try to hide that. I think the fact that Rojas is such a good center fielder, are we maybe overplaying, got to have this great center fielder out there? We talked about the ball that was hit last night that Marsh didn't get to. Yeah, maybe Rojas gets that, but let's look at it this way, Bill. How many of Major League center fielders are getting to that ball? Yeah, I thought exactly the same thing you did, but I also thought, I don't think a lot of guys are getting to that ball.
No, probably not. But I still don't think Marsh is the answer in center field. And not just because of that play. But I said it before the break, we're being a little bit greedy. Maybe we're nitpicking. But when you look at this team, as good as they are, you don't want to go into October with any weaknesses. You just don't.
Sure.
And if you have the ability to go out and turn one of your weaknesses into a strength at the trade deadline, I think you do it. And I know there's a lot of people out there who don't want to see them trade Andrew Painter. They don't want to see them trade Aiden Miller. I'd be willing to unload either one of those guys if it meant getting an outfielder like a Luis Robert Jr. who's under contract through 2027, because it's not a rental piece. This is a guy that will be a part of that outfield for the next 3 seasons. And this team legitimately can compete for the next 3 years. You have all of your stud pitchers under contract. Nola's under contract through 2030. Wheeler's under contract through 2027. Rangers under contract through 2025. You get him extended. And Christopher Sanchez has shown he's more than capable. You have him, I think you control his rights through 2026. So why not trade an Andrew Painter if it means getting a piece to that outfield that you can have on this team for the next 3 years?
Right. If you had that piece that you're describing, then I could see the little play with that you're doing with Pache and Rojas and whatever. If you had like a hard-hitting, really good-hitting left fielder, then I could see you playing the little circus outfield game that you're kind of playing right now. But you don't have that luxury as it is right now. All right, when we get back, let's look a little deeper into this Phillies team as far as maybe contracts, as far as maybe, okay, would there be a couple players maybe that you would move from this team in order to get what we're talking about? We'll take a look at that. This is Middays, Bob Cooney, 97.5 The Fanatic. 11 o'clock here on Middays. Just got to tell you that the 10 o'clock hour, it was brought to you by Window Nation. Take advantage of Window Nation's 50% off sale on all style windows. Plus, make no down payment with no payments and no interest for 12 full months. Call 866-90-NATION or visit windownation.com. Okay, we're talking a lot of Phillies today after they get back on the right track. They weren't off track. They were just kind of, maybe almost derailed a little bit. But 9-2 win last night, 18 hits, season high over the Padres. Like a breath of fresh air, that's all. Just kind of a game that we all wanted and perhaps some needed. But we're talking about the outfield today. And yesterday before the game, and we talked about it yesterday morning, although they didn't do it before we got off air, they designated Johan Rojas to AAA. In order to make room for Trey Turner, who was in the lineup again last night. Got a nice ovation at the stadium when he came to the plate. I know there was a lot of eye rolls. I bet you we know some people here at the station that were like, oh, really? What's wrong with fun? Like, that's fun. I don't care. Like, I don't care if they gave him a 5-minute standing ovation. Who cares? It worked last year. Do it again. It's something all fun. I'm all in for the fun. Fun's the best thing to have, as I always tell you, Ray. I'm trying to teach that to you. You're becoming a good student of it. Yes. So with this outfield thing that the Phillies have going on, like who's your left fielder, who's your center fielder, because Nick Castellanos isn't going anywhere. How do you approach it? Do you think come trade deadline, Bill, this is a total, and you mentioned some of the prospects, is this a total prospect thing, or could there be a chance that the Phillies move somebody? I have their roster up. I have their contracts up. We can look at that. But I want to ask you, you mentioned prospects earlier. Would you rather have a known commodity, or are you one that, like, hey, Jaiden Miller, man, that's a guy that I think it was Jason Stark maybe labeled him as a guy that could be a superstar in this league. How do you usually go towards that? Because I have a way that I usually roll.
I'd rather have a known commodity on this team. Because when I look at this team, and if you could get a known commodity that can be on this roster for the next couple of seasons when you are built to compete for championships for the next few seasons, I'd rather go that route. And I look at Jaiden Miller. I know the kid looks like he's going to be a stud. Can he play somewhere other than short and second? Now, you may say second base would be fine because Bryson Stott hasn't played that great. But if we're saying Trey Turner and Bryson Stott are our middle infielders, where are you fitting Jaiden Miller onto this team? He's not going to third. He's not going to first. Can you teach him outfield, Ray?
You could teach him corner infield. I don't know. Like, I think at some point you're looking at this is a 2-year way down the line type of thing. I think if Jaiden Miller could play, Jaiden Miller could play. Like, eventually you'll find a way to plug him in there. I'll tell you that when we look at the prospects they have, he's the one that I'm giving the hardest look of, like, ooh, do I really want to make that?
I'm on the same boat as you on that one.
I'd rather trade Andrew Painter for a stud outfielder. And look, Andrew Painter, we don't know how he's going to respond from Tommy John surgery. And I do think that this Phillies pitching staff, not that you ever want to say no to more starting pitchers, but I think they are good enough and they are all locked up for an extended period of time that if you could trade an Andrew Painter and bring in a bat to that outfield, and I keep going back to Luis Robert Jr. I know people say, oh, well, he can't stay healthy. To me, they were fluky injuries. We're talking about a wrist injury, a wrist sprain. You're talking about a team that hasn't really competed, so why would he play through injuries? They're the ones who shut him down. He did try to play through the wrist sprain 2 years ago, and they ended up shutting him down. Chicago did. So I would do that if it's a piece that's not just a rental and it's a guy that's going to be in this outfield in this lineup for the next 3 seasons when really they don't win a World Series in the next 3 years. I'm going to be devastated, and I think most of Philadelphia will be.
I agree with that. I like how you put it. Like, for this team now, you look more at prospects to give up. I am that. I like known commodities. This is one of the few times that I say, but. And Jaiden Miller is the but from everything that I've heard about. So that's prospect-wise. If a team wants someone off of your roster, let's go through it and see who we might think, if you're getting like a heavy-hitting left fielder, say, that you think might be available. Bryce Harper's off the table. Trey Turner's off the table. Zach Wheeler's off the table. Aaron Nola, JT Realmuto. Am I right so far there, guys?
Without a doubt, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Nick Castellanos. I would say this.
No one's taking him. Bob.
Exactly.
He's a Philly.
Exactly. No one's taking him. Kyle Schwarber to me is off the table. Taijuan Walker, I don't know if anyone's taken that contract either.
No, I'm going to be honest with you. When it comes to the major leaguers on this roster, I don't think there's any of them that are really movable. Like I don't
Nobody
think
on this team.
I don't think you're moving major leaguers from this team. The only ones would be the fringes that maybe if someone thinks that they take them as like I can work on that, like the Pache Rojas.
Okay. How about maybe some pitchers? Like a Sir Anthony. Would you be okay if you had to give him up in order to get a heavy hitting left fielder?
I don't see them being a part of those types of trades. Like if I'm trading the heavy hitting outfielder, I don't think I'm trading for a current relief pitcher that I'm going to end up
You're going to probably get a prospect too.
Yeah, but I think I'm just going deep into I would rather take prospects 17 than take relief pitcher I have to pay at some point if I'm a team that's selling off.
Okay, but I'm putting the question to you like this. The other team wants a prospect and a now player.
Well, thank God, because I feel like I'm going to have a GM that's not going to take another prospect from me. Like, I guess, I mean, I'm not moving Sir Anthony then. If Sir Anthony's somehow in that conversation.
That's the question. How about you, Bill?
Yeah, I'm with Ray. I think when you look at this roster, there's really no movable pieces, either because A, there's no way the Phillies would move them, the players you mentioned, or B, they just have such bad contracts that there's no way a team's taking a Nick Castellanos. There's no way a team is taking a Taijuan Walker, I don't think. And when you look at the bullpen, we're talking about a bat in the outfield. Well, I'd like to see them add another arm in the bullpen as well, so I certainly don't want to give up any of those bullpen arms to acquire an outfielder. I think it's going to have to be one of these prospects.
I've heard that be, and you're with the masses, Bill. So many have said, yeah, you got to add another bullpen arm, whatever. I think I've gotten off that train. I think it's weird, and it's because of the Sir Anthony stuff. And this was just yesterday, Bill, that I looked up his stuff and realized, wow, he is having a good year. Like the complaint about and we were talking about this last week. I don't know if you were here, but we were complaining about the third left-handed arm in the bullpen in Soto. Like, I think I'm okay if I'm worried about Gregory Soto. I think I'm okay with the bullpen.
Yeah, because you hope that in October maybe you're not going to need all these bullpen arms because your starters are going to go deep into games and you do have some other options there. But it can't ever hurt. I don't think you could ever have enough bullpen arms. I think Ray's with me on this one.
Yeah, that's one of those where I think if the situation arises, because right now, I'll be honest, the outfield has been my primary focus now for a couple weeks where I've looked at this like, okay, you just need some help out there. I forget who it was that put out the numbers of where this outfield ranks in terms of production in baseball, and it's almost all bottom five. Like, you need help out in the outfield. So that's my primary goal, but I'm absolutely picking up the phone like, hey, so what arms are you thinking about? What does it look like for you? Like, I don't think this is I'm putting a massive package together for Mason Miller, but I think this ends up being like kind of a Lorenzen move, honestly, from last year, where it's like a guy that can fill a couple of roles for you as an arm. Like, just having another arm in this organization. So if anything happens to you in August, anything happens to you in September, it's probably not someone that's anywhere near starting level since you feel like you have 5 starters right now, plus Turnbull being able to be a starter. I don't really think they feel any good about anyone in Lehigh Valley right now coming up and making starts. But you have, I think, 6 right now that you feel good at the major league level. I think that's probably enough for you there. So probably someone more geared toward the back end of that bullpen. But bringing in an arm just to have another arm will not hurt anyone.
All right, so Rojas is who we've been talking about mostly today. Is he tradable?
Interesting.
It just popped into my head, and somebody on our YouTube page, I think, I missed it. But yeah, if you're picking up somebody, whether it be a corner outfielder, whether it be another arm in the bullpen, they say, yeah, that guy Rojas that you just sent down to AAA, we'll take him.
I wouldn't make Rojas untouchable, but I don't know if that moves the needle enough to get a stud outfielder. But if you had to throw him in the mix and you could get a guy that's locked up at the center field position for the next few seasons, I'm not opposed to doing it.
What if you got a little bit of a bopping left fielder and Marsh is your center fielder for the rest of the season? and he switches around with Pache, and you do all the Rob Thompson things of there's always going to be changes in the lineup.
And you had to trade Rojas to do it?
Yeah.
I'm probably doing it. I'm probably doing it only because, like I said earlier, I want to see them go all in on a World Series for the next 3 seasons. And I know people are a little bit gun-shy because of what happened after 2011 and how we depleted the farm system. I think this team is better at developing young players now, and I think they're also set up more for the future now than maybe they were in 2011 with a lot of aging stars.
Yeah.
So I'm going all in.
Ray, what about you? Rojas, is he? Would you be upset parting with him? Would that be an untouchable?
No, I mean, he's not untouchable. It takes the right situation. Like, I'm hoping they thread the needle on this trade deadline without having to part from Aiden Miller. I also think that to get rid of Rojas, it's not going to be a rental situation where I'm just looking for a big hitter in the corner outfield for this season. Like, it has to be someone. If that was someone that was a building block of your future, I want someone back that at least has a sizable future forward. And I'll give credit where credit's due. I think in terms of Dave Dombrowski and what he's traded for in the past, we haven't seen him do the massive splash. But outside of Lorenzen, everyone's been someone that's been here multiple years. And whether they've been massive contributors to a postseason team or they've been here just to kind of help you get along, like, I think Lorenzen and Robertson have been the two that I think have been here just for half a season. And I don't think those have crushed you. I know people have gotten upset with Ben Brown and, oh, my, look how good he is with Chicago, the whole thing.
Right.
I'm okay. I'm okay with that one. That 2022 trade deadline, I think people right now have gotten a little carried away with like, oh, what does it look like in retrospect? You won a pennant. Like, you were up 2-1 in the World Series. I'm not necessarily upset that a couple years later someone became a contributor for someone else when you got that run out of basically nowhere and you had guys that you traded for that contributed to that moment. So I think that looking at this, if they can go in and get a couple guys that are controllable, or if they go get someone that's controllable, there's more guys I'm willing to part with. If they're going for a rental, you better raise a World Series flag this year.
Yeah, exactly right. It's funny. Some of the people are like, "Hey, calm down. It's the best team in baseball." We're not anxious. Look, you're always looking. I say this all the time, Bill. You're always looking for perfection in sports. You're never going to attain it, but you're always trying to get there. Right now, there's a little bit of a hole there. Like, this is the best team in the National League. They're great. They're fun to watch. We all love them. But, there are going to be areas that you can always improve. And I think right now it's pretty obvious that you can do it. I'm a Brandon Marsh fan. Like, I'm okay him being, if you had to start the season over again, I'm okay with him being out there 100, 125 times a year. Like, I'm okay with that. I didn't love him and Rojas out there because it's just too light hitting. So now it comes to, all right, go get a heavy hitting left fielder. That's it. Plain and simple.
Yeah, I would be okay with Marsh if you did bring in a heavy hitting left fielder, but my priority wouldn't be left field as much as it would be bringing in a center fielder and letting Marsh play left field, and maybe you platoon him a little bit in left field when you got lefties on the mound. But I would be okay. I just don't want to see them sit tight and say, okay, we're going to roll with Marsh in center. We're going to have a platoon with Pache. We're going to have Dahl as our big bat in left field. To me, that's not enough on a team where we have World Series aspirations.
So to pose this to you then, let's say it's not the star, the big fish, but they go get another fourth outfielder where it's not Dahl, where it's, I know Jake McCarthy was the name that came up there. Like, it's another outfielder that they think they can, I hate to use the word platoon, but kind of platoon and build a little bit stronger with more of a known commodity out there, but not necessarily a star. Are you okay with that as compared to? I'm
not. No, I'm sorry. I like that's. You have that in Whitfield. You have that in Dahl. You have that in Pache. You have that in Roa. Like, what are we doing here?
But when you say, are you okay with that? If they can't get what we want, then I think we may have to be okay with that. I'd rather them do something like that than do nothing.
Or should we be okay with what they did for the first, how many games in are we? 72 games of the season that got you the best record in the National League. And that's put a really good defensive outfielder out there in center field who can't hit, but you have him at the bottom of the order, and you live with Marsh. Look, what we're talking about, too, is we can't forget this. And we have barely mentioned his name. Does a lot of this fall down because of what Castellanos has not done hitting-wise?
Absolutely.
Because if you think about it, when healthy, we're talking about a really good defensive center fielder who bats ninth. A speedy, I'll call Marsh a good defensive left fielder who bats eighth.
Yeah.
That's what we're talking about.
When you look at Castellanos, before last night, out of 151 qualified hitters who had a certain amount of at-bats, he was 141 out of 151 in batting average. 145 out of 151 in on-base percentage. So, yes, absolutely, because of the lack of production you're getting from Nick Castellanos, it makes center field and left field that much more important at the plate. And even if Castellanos gets hot right now, even if we see him go on one of these streaks that he tends to go on, I'm still not going into the postseason relying on Castellanos because we've seen it way too many times, none bigger than in the NLCS last year, that he can completely disappear. And that's why I need more from my other two outfielders at the plate.
We talk about recency bias on this station a lot. And when we're being honest with each other, with our listeners, when listeners are being honest, it's a real thing. Our recency bias with Nick Castellanos is, yes, he's hitting 209 this year. And, yeah, we're seeing him flail at the plate, and it reminds us of what happened in the playoffs last year. But should we broaden our recency bias in that he hit 272 last year? He did have 37 doubles last year. He had 29 home runs. That's that 66 mark that I was talking about. He had 106 RBI. Is this an anomaly for a career 273 hitter? Is this an anomaly this year, or is it a 2-year-old that is seeing his bat slow down and this is the decline?
Oh, he's been here. This is his third season. First one was underwhelming. Second one, great 4 months to open up the season, was an all-star and helped carry that team at the beginning of the season. Hit a slide at the end of the season. I'm not going to take away what he did in the NLDS and the fact that the start of the NLCS, those back-to-back multi-home run games, but you've seen a lot more concern from him. And this isn't just the Castellanos thing, by the way. I don't think he's the only one that's the reason we walked down this line for the lineup, because I think Stott has not been what he's been cracked up to be this season. That's point blank. He's hitting 230. Rojas goes down. Rojas has a higher OBP than Nick Castellanos and a higher batting average than Bryson Stott.
Yeah.
When we're talking about, that guy, can he hit at this level? Ultimately, you need the guys that were going to be everyday contributors that were supposed to carry the lineup at some point. Now, it's cool because they've been carried by their pitching and they still were scoring over 5 runs per game. So those guys right now, we're nitpicking at them because they're 24 games over 500. But we're nitpicking at them because, again, like Bill's brought up a million times,
perfection.
We're looking for a World Series.
Yeah, exactly.
And where it's, okay, where are the different places that you can better this team?
Yeah,
you need them to play up. It's not the back of the baseball card. You need them to play up to somewhere close to the standard you set for them. And neither one of them have played up to that so far this season. And that's put your lineup in position when you're without JT, when you're without Trey Turner, and you're looking at guys. We spend so much time talking about some of the, have we got enough from center? Have we got enough from left? Well, we thought that second base and right field were pretty much set in contributors to this lineup, and they've, outside of 3 weeks from Stott and outside of 2 random week samplings from Nick Castellanos, you haven't gotten nearly enough from either one of them.
I look at that as a good thing.
Well, it could be because they've had success in spite of that.
Exactly, yeah.
But we spend a lot of time talking about Castellanos, and I know they talked about it on the best show ever a little bit yesterday with Bryson Stott. Yeah, we need more from Stott. I mean, he can't be batting going into last night. It was 239. Now he's batting what after having a couple hits last night? He's batting 234. Oh, because he only went 1 for 4 last night. You need more from him. And everything we heard about Stott was he was going to be a 300 hitter this year, that he has potential to be a 300 hitter. So, yeah, you need more from those guys. But going back to Ray's point about what Castellanos did in the NLDS, that's why I'm still rolling with Casty.
Yeah.
You're not going to sit him down because he can get streaky. He can do things that even Reggie Jackson didn't do in October. But at the same time, you can't rely on him. That's why we need more from the other outfield.
Now, just to clarify to everybody, we're not down on the Phillies at all, and we're not talking negative stuff at all. We're talking about a great team right now. How can you make them even better, maybe? What are some of the – you're always going to look at a great – at least I think we do. You look at a really good team, and you find out, okay, how do you make them great? Or if they're great, how do you even make them better than that? You know, there was a phrase around the NBA when I was covering it. It was good to great. If you have a good shot, make the pass to give somebody a great shot. We're looking good to great. The Phillies are really, really good. How can we get them up to great? Maybe the outfield, something has to be done. What do you think needs to be done? 610-632-0975 if you want to call or text in. Let us know what you think. How do you like the decision they made on Johan Rojas? All that, a whole lot more. This is Middays. Bob Cooney, 97.5, The Fanatic. Welcome back, everybody. 11:30 here at the Fanatic. Hope you're having a great day today, as it's another nice Tuesday. We got a string of nice days coming up. If you like the heat, they're great days. If you don't like the heat, well, it might not be all that great for you. But last night, and you just heard it on the promo, the Boston Celtics won the NBA championship. Blah, 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 blah. They're 18th. It's kind of scary when you look at their roster, when you look what might be coming from that team. A very young team, a very good team, obviously, with the mix of veterans that you need. Drew Holiday, kind of the glue of that team. Great kid. I really, really love that guy. So I'm happy for him to win a championship. I said this last week. He might be, of all time, the only Celtic I didn't hate. I like Drew Holiday that much. His time here with the Sixers, always a good dude. Does such great things for community. Nice guy. Great family. I was happy for him last night. And then it ended. And that was it. Can't stand that green winning championships.
Can you explain your Larry Bird situation again to me? Is it just a respect thing?
Absolutely.
Okay. You hate him, but you respect him. Okay.
I hated when he made shots against the Sixers. I couldn't stand it. Nothing hurt me worse. But I was at a point where I was playing basketball. I thought I was going to be great at it. And I just appreciated Larry Bird's game and how good he was at it and how hard he worked at it and all the things there. That was just me. That's just my feeling. But I still hate him. Look, who do you want to beat the most? Guys whose game that you like or appreciate, right? That's why I wanted the Sixers. When Julius Erving strangled him around the neck and started throwing punches at him, yeah, I was cool with that. I appreciated his game, though. But anyway, with the end of the NBA season last night, and Bill, how do you take it? Boston Celtics obviously hated. You grew up around here. You probably have the rivals that you didn't like growing up and all that. But how do you take it when, Celtics win an NBA championship?
Well, I was happy I didn't have to watch it last night because I was at the Phillies game, so I didn't have to watch it. I'm at the point with Boston as a city where it doesn't bother me as much anymore just because it's become so much. I mean, it's just I would have been angry if the Boston Celtics won if they didn't win all the Super Bowls and all the World Series that the Red Sox have won over the last 20 years. It's just, to me, I'm not as angry anymore. It's just I'm so used to it. I'm immune.
Yeah, which absolutely sucks. But, yeah, they'll have another parade up in Boston, in the next few days or whatever. And you look at that team, as I said earlier, that's a team that looks like it could, they're the favored next year. And next year, maybe the year after, whatever moving forward, they're good. They're that good.
And we bust your chops about being a Celtics fan, and it all comes down to a couple of weeks ago when you said we should be rooting for Boston because of the stat that you gave, and I forget what it was.
The only reason you should be rooting for Boston is how I phrased it. And although we don't want them to win, if they do win, the only goodness that comes out of it is the last 6 NBA champions did not get out of the second round the next year. So
maybe that's a positive.
It's kind of a foregone conclusion, or it was, that the Celtics were going to win, favored to win the NBA championship this year. If you can guarantee me they are not going to be in the Sixers' way, they're going to be out by the second round next year, I'll take that little caveat.
I'm with you.
What is this smirk? Thank you, Bill. What is this little smirk that you have on your face, Mr. Dunn?
I'm sure the Knicks and Bucks are thrilled that the Celtics aren't going to be in the Eastern Conference Finals. I care about what happens here. You can't guarantee me anything. That's the way sports is.
All right, so let's take a look at what might happen here, because today marks the first day that teams can talk to their own free agents and either bring them back, whatever they may do, negotiate with them. So let me give you some names, and you guys tell me what your thoughts are on maybe bringing those guys back. All right, so hear me out here. Paul Reed. Bill, I'll start with you.
I would not bring Paul Reed back, especially if that meant he's still the backup center. Now, if you're saying maybe he's going to play a little bit more of the 4, and you're still going to bring in maybe an Andre
I'll give you
Drummond,
that caveat. He is not going to be the backup center.
Then maybe I'd bring him back.
He's a solid maybe.
Yeah. I mean, look, I think they have him. He's a guaranteed contract if they want it to be, but they could still unload it. Isn't that how it works?
Exactly, yeah. It was only guaranteed if they got out of the first round.
So for me, if you had to include him, in a deal, maybe in a trade that Daryl Morey wants to do because another team, because I think they could trade his contract, but another team can still cut him, right? It's something like that where it's not guaranteed. I forget the details of
for me. Yeah, I don't know. I was just looking, would you bring him back on this team?
I would bring
as a
him
free agent.
I'd bring him back, but not as the backup center.
Right. I agree with you, not the backup center. I suggested it was like this time last year. Would you take a look at him as your starting four? Gives you energy alongside Joel Embiid. He can rebound. Who cares if he fouls out in 20 minutes? You know, all of that stuff.
Not as a starter.
Yeah, I still think there's some things there, but I'm not sure. I'm a definite maybe on that also. Ray, what about you on Paul Reed?
Yeah, it's a circumstantial thing for me. He does not have a guaranteed spot on my roster.
Okay.
It's okay if I can find someone that I like better as a backup big, and also I think there's other fours that I would probably
He'd be a backup four, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so I don't think it's a guaranteed thing. I'm not as out on him as I feel like a lot of the fan base has been. I don't think a lot of the problems with him beat off the floor stem from Paul Reed. If anything, they were too reliant on him in a situation they shouldn't have been. I still don't understand how they went years without Embiid playing this season and had no answers for the 10 minutes he was off the floor.
Yeah.
It will baffle me till the end of my existence.
Totally agree.
I don't think it was for a lack of effort, though, from Morey at the trade deadline. He said they did try to get a big. There was just none moved.
Oh, yeah. No, I don't think it's even the backup big's fault. I mean, this goes to the bigger question of what they need to do this offseason for them to have offense when Embiid's off the floor. But like, I don't put that one on Morey. I put that on, like, we had how long? With this group, without Embiid,
30
we have
games.
no answer for how to score without him on the floor?
That was a surprising thing, especially because I think all three of us respect Nick Nurse as a coach, and he couldn't figure it out. He couldn't figure it out either.
So odd. All right, Kelly Oubre Jr., are you bringing him back?
Again, it's a maybe because it depends on the price.
Sure.
Right?
Now, you got him at a bargain last year.
Big bargain.
Yeah, he's probably, 3 years, 12, 15 a year. You think something like that? Or is that too high?
What'd you say, 3 years, how much?
12, 15 a year. So if you go like 36.
If they could get him for 3 for 36, I'm probably bringing him back. I saw enough this year that I liked Oubre.
What do you say, Ray?
I'm in. I'm in to bring Oubre back.
I'm in on Oubre also. I am. All right, how about KJ Martin? I think this is all going to be the same answer.
Yeah.
If you got to fill out.
Yeah.
If you have to
You
fill
have
out.
a lot of open roster spots, and KJ Martin won't kill you.
Yeah, they can't get rid of it. They're going to have to re-sign some of these guys. So.
Absolutely, no question.
But not moving the needle for me.
I think Nick Batum's retiring.
No.
That's what I think. So that's my thought out there. So I'll just put that. What do you don't think so, Ray?
No, I don't want him to.
I don't want him to either.
Okay.
When you say something like that, it gives me more cause to believe that you would know more than me. So I'm. That just hurts me more. I want him back.
Well, yeah, assuming he doesn't retire, I think all three of us would love to have him back, right?
Yeah, I don't mind having him back. He's a older Al Horford. Yeah, I don't think you can be an older.
And I think I remember a good friend of the station, Gina Mizell, wrote an article that right after the playoff loss, they asked Nico about whether he was retiring. I think it was Joel who screamed, no, he's coming back. So he wants him back.
Yeah, he wants him back big time. He's talked well about this city, Batum has.
He has. And he was tweeting about Tyrese Maxey the other day. Come on, one more run for us.
Okay.
Please, I'm begging you. Batum, come back. I need you here. I need you.
I need your 35-year-old, 16-year in the NBA body back here. Yes, because you're a key figure. Mo Bamba.
He is.
I mean, again.
Yeah, it's okay. You can say no.
Yeah, you need to fill out a roster spots, so maybe you bring him back, but I don't need him.
Yeah, I'm good with Mo Bamba finding work elsewhere.
Yeah, you took me from Batum to Bamba, and I couldn't be more opposite in the way I feel.
D'Anthony Melton.
I would bring back D'Anthony Melton. I think that you may actually be able to get him on a cheap deal because of that back injury. Maybe another team's not willing to pay him a lot. I like D'Anthony Melton, especially, Bob. Something you've said a lot is how much he's liked in that locker room.
Yeah.
And how good of a guy he is, how good of a teammate he is. And I think if Melton didn't get hurt, I think he would have given you some really good minutes. Unfortunately, that back injury was just something he couldn't get past.
How about you, Ray?
I'm scared.
Back?
I mean, I don't know.
You have to have assurance, right?
Yeah, I have to have assurance. Even so, I'm a little scared. I think someone might want to take the flyer, and someone that wants to take the flyer might be more inclined to throw a little bit more cash than you can.
Now, nobody's going to know that injury better than you.
That's true.
Good point.
So that'll play a big part in what these Sixers decide to do.
Yeah, that's true. I just think if I'm D'Anthony Melton's agent, and I'm like, oh, look, the Sixers really want him back. They
Sure.
know it better than
No
anyone
question.
else. So if the Sixers really want him back, why wouldn't you want him? And why can't you throw him? Look what he was doing before the back. The Sixers want him back clearly. That means he could be a
He was going to be a
piece
starter
for you.
on this team.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, Melton is one of the, I love the idea of, I'm not sure I can really bank myself where they are as a team. If we were talking about this was the start of something, I'd be more patient with him and like, okay, I think he can work his way back from this. We're in the midst, and we're on the other side of the hill with this group trying to go win a championship. I don't know if I can hitch my wagon to someone I'm not sure about in that case.
It may be a scenario where I know that the Sixers can talk to their own free agents now, so they could talk to Melton now. But it may be a situation where Melton's agent says, look, we're going to wait until June 26th is when I think it is, or June 30th, excuse me, where he could talk to other teams, see what the market is, and if there isn't a market for him, then he comes back to Philly and says, all right, sign me to a prove-it deal.
Prove it
Something along those
deal.
lines.
I'll sign right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just don't know if it's going to get to a prove it deal.
Okay.
Do you think it's going to get to a prove it deal?
I don't know. Like this is a really good one because a back is the most egregious thing that could happen is they bring him back and he gets the back injury again.
Yeah, that would be tough.
Because then it's like, okay, how did you not know this is a recurring thing? Now, obviously injuries aren't all, predictable and all knowing and all of that. But if you had enough confidence into bringing him back, you better damn well be sure I don't see him out there stretching his back around 5 minutes into his first game back. So a lot of interesting. We have some more that we have to go through here. We'll do that when we get back. Sixers are allowed to talk to their own free agents today. They have one guy under contract. I have never seen anything like this in my sports life. They have a lot of work to do. So let's help them do it. We'll go through some more names with you when we get back. This is Middays, Bob Cooney, 97.5 The Fanatic. Welcome back as we get close to noon here on this Tuesday. We hope you're having a wonderful one as you hear Bruce Springsteen on. You know, today's the 13th anniversary of Clarence Clemens passing away. Means nothing to you, Bill.
Not a huge Bruce Springsteen guy. I don't hate him, but I'm not as big of a fan as you are.
Yeah, which is good. We got two shows coming up in August, which we're going to see with all of the kids one day and then a lot of friends the next one. So
That'll be fun.
Yeah, anybody's going is going to have a good time. So we're going through Sixers. Sixers are allowed to talk to their own free agents today. And we got some text reaction to some of the names we've already brought up, and we have some more to bring up. So, Ray, what's some of our text reactions?
Yeah, we got one during that segment that just said, out, 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 all caps, out.
Wow. Okay.
I don't know on who.
It sounds like everybody we brought up.
And then Dawood checking in, hell no. And then yes.
All right.
Also with no names
No
attached.
names. So, yeah, 50-50. All right. So we got that going on. We've brought up Paul Reed that we all were kind of like, maybe. Kelly Oubre, we're all in on. KJ Martin, if you're filling out spots, okay. Nick Batum, I think he's probably going to retire. But if he doesn't, all three of us are okay with him coming back. Mo Bamba, none of us is really excited about coming back. DeAnthony Melton, it all depends on where is that back? What do they know about it? Can he compete with it? Will it be a problem again? If it's not, we're all okay bringing him back. We're more than okay bringing him back. If there's any slight hesitation on that, I don't think you can take that chance. The next name I bring up, Bill, might be the biggest of them all. Buddy Hield.
Ooh.
Now, remember the excitement.
I know.
They get him at the trade deadline. This is the best player that was out there. You have somebody that can open the floor for Joel Embiid. He hit some shooting slumps. He also had nights where it was, all right, this is what you were looking for, the playing game against Miami. There were some games there. I think it was weird for Buddy Hield to come in and play the role that he played without Joel Embiid. And then when Embiid came back, not making excuses, I just don't think he got comfortable. But what say you? Buddy Hield, come back with money you can afford. What would you do?
In today's NBA, you can't have enough three-point shooters. I'm bringing him back. He's shown us he can shoot the three.
You say it kind of reluctantly, though.
Well, because he never really figured it out. He did have that one big game in the playoffs, but he never really figured out how to work with Joel, which was what we were all hoping he would be able to do. But I'm hoping if you bring him back, he gets a full offseason, a full season, that I think he could be a good piece. I'm not sure if he's a starter, though. I think maybe you bring him off the bench.
I think it'd be a nice bench piece. I'm okay with it. If the money doesn't hurt you too bad, I'm okay with it. What about you, Ray?
The money's there, yeah.
It's a contract thing. Like, this is all right, you got the big star, or you got a middle-of-the-road star, something like that, and, oh, yeah, we can still afford Buddy Hield and do all these other moves too, right?
Yeah, I just think priority-wise, money versus priority, like he's not at the top of my list of priority of guys to bring back. So I think we end up losing him due to the fact that I don't prioritize him. Like, I think there's another team that moves faster on a Buddy Hield than the Sixers move on Buddy Hield.
Okay.
Like, I don't think Buddy Hield's just waiting around like, hey, you going to give me a call? You going to give me the money I want? I think there's another team that'll probably snatch him up before you can get back to, okay, yeah, we're at the Buddy Hield part of our offseason.
Okay. Fair enough. Ricky Council IV. Now, when you bring up a name like that, that's one of those, they've done a good job. They've signed 7 or 8 guys are now on this roster. Still got to fill some guys out. That's what Ricky the Council IV is. That guy, he's another piece. Okay, we'll keep him. Are you okay with that, or is that? And look, you can say it doesn't really matter. You don't have to be definite yes or no.
Yeah, for me, Ricky Council IV is a guy where it doesn't matter.
Okay.
You put him on the roster. I think he's under contract, right? Isn't Ricky Council under contract in addition to Embiid?
I don't think it's guaranteed, though.
It's not guaranteed, no.
But it wouldn't be difficult to have him on this roster. You already got him locked up if you want him.
You're in a good spot with him.
So he's probably on this team.
Ray, same?
Yeah.
Okay. Next one is interesting also. Campaign.
Well, he just got arrested, didn't he?
Campaign got arrested?
Yeah, I saw it on TMZ as well, yeah.
Oh, I missed it. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
He got arrested for, I think he was charged because he gave false information to the police when they came, and he refused to identify himself as what he's being accused of. There's a mugshot floating around online.
I totally didn't see that. How about that?
Maybe you get him at a discount now.
What was? Yeah, maybe you pay us bail. What was he arrested for? I know what you said, but there had to be original reason that they were coming after him for him to give false identification.
I'm looking at it now.
Do we know that? Okay.
According to Scottsdale police, authorities were called out to investigate a disturbance in Scottsdale at around 2:44 in the morning, and they came into contact with Payne and another individual. It's unclear exactly what happened next. Cops didn't give any further specific details, although they did say that Payne was arrested on the scene and booked on a charge of refusal to provide a truthful name and one count of false report to law enforcement. He was released from custody a short time later.
What did he say? He was Kelly Oubre or something? All right. Well, that doesn't. Look, I don't want to downplay anything if he did something wrong, but let's just look at the basketball aspect because we, like you said, Bill, and you used to be a lawyer. We don't know the ins and outs of everything on that. But
one of our avid YouTube followers, MBD, DBF, said he should be arrested for that shooting form.
But you know what? And I'll tell you what. I was down at practice standing next to him when he was shooting. It looks 20 times worse in person than it does on TV.
It is ugly. It is ugly.
But Campaign, a guy that came up, if you're going to keep him, he's probably a guy that comes off the bench, provides you energy, showed he could score a little bit, and I think his confidence rose as the playoffs went on. A guy that interests you, Bill?
Yeah, I'd bring him back. I like him off the bench. I do like the energy he brings. And I know people were upset when they got rid of Pat Bev, but I liked what Campaign brought more.
I did too. I liked what Campaign brought to the team. I think I would have him back in that backup role, money fits, all of that. Ray, what about you?
Yeah, I'm in.
Okay,
Bring
cool.
him back. Give me the
Ray.
energy. Give me the shooting.
This one I'm out. Robert Covington, I'll just say right now, I'm out. There was the injury. I know what he brings. Love the guy to death. Really good dude. But no, I'm not. No.
Yeah, you can't. Right?
Right?
When was the last time we saw him?
Yeah, exactly. Right. Same.
Pains me to say, but yeah.
Okay, Kyle Lowry. Now, if you could get him for veteran minimum, if you're barely paying him any money, if he says, "I just want one more year, I want to contribute somehow, I'll be here for you." He was getting heavy minutes for you at the end of last year and throughout the playoffs. Much needed guy, Nick Nurse thought. Is that just the case because you didn't have anybody, air quotes, better? Or was it because he still has that much left?
It pains me to say it. I'm out on Kyle Lowry.
Okay. I thought you were going the other way.
Nah,
when you said it pains me, I thought you were going to say I want him.
It pains me because obviously we got him too late in his career. It would have been great if we got him before he was 37, turning 38. But what we saw down the stretch, I just think Kyle Lowry has taken a massive step backwards. Age has finally caught up to him. I'm not bringing him back, unfortunately.
Ray?
He's knocking on the door. I'm welcoming him back.
I got to tell you, if it's minimum money, I think I would too. For one more year, say, hey, you want to do the go away tour with us? We got you.
You think it's minimum money though? You think he comes back on the minimum?
I don't mean minimum like you're, but I mean like I shouldn't say minimum. Let's say
For 15 an hour, yeah.
very
he can come
efficient. Yeah.
No. Yeah, no, for the veterans.
And we're only going
minimum.
to pay you when you play.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For the veterans minimum, yeah, I'll bring him back.
All right. Terquavian Smith, I love the way the guy shoots. I want to keep him in the whatever. Jeff Doughton, How about Tobias Harris? Is it a definite no? You have, 12, 13 roster spots filled. You do have, say, enough money to pay him 3-year, $30 million deal, something like that?
I would say no.
Yeah.
Okay.
Great drop, Ray. For me, it's a definite no. And I think they talked about it a little bit on the morning show that if the price is right for what he provides, no. Tobias Harris, if we're trying to turn the page and have a clean slate with this basketball team going forward, I don't think that we can accept Tobias Harris coming back. You just can't.
All right, and there it is. Paul Hudrick from Liberty Ballers is going to join us at noon when we get back to talk a little bit more Sixers. Where are you with them? Then, of course, obviously, we'll get back to some of your Phillies talk. Really nothing going on with the Eagles. So we'll get to all the stuff on the plate and a whole lot more. This is Middays, Bob Cooney, 97.5 The Fanatic. Welcome back as we hit the noon hour here at 97.5. The Fanatic, Bill Colarulo, with us all day long today. And without any further ado, on the Comcast Business Hotline, we are going to talk to Paul Hudrick of Liberty Ballers. Paul, what's going on, buddy? You're on 97.5. How you doing?
I'm doing great, Bob. How are you?
Great. Thanks so much for joining us. We're so happy you did. The time starts now, right, Paul? Like I knew how it was when I was covering team. You know how it is right now. You have that lull. Season ends, and it's kind of like, all right, you got to watch everybody else participate. Now it's over. Now the fun begins. You get notice of Summer League. They get to talk to their own free agents. What do you think, Paul, is going to be one of the first things that gets done by this team?
That's a really good question, Bob, because I think a lot depends on kind of what you touched on. Well, the new wrinkle in the CBA, actually, is that this year teams can talk to their own free agents today, as soon as the finals ends. That wasn't always the case. So now I think you're going to get a clearer picture of where Paul George stands with the Clippers, where LeBron James stands with the Lakers, and so forth and down the line. Brandon Ingram and the Pelicans. You're going to get maybe a little bit clearer of a picture of where those guys stand with their current teams. And I think with the Sixers, it's a lot of wait and see. And I know fans don't want to hear that, but it's the reality. Like they're going to be aggressive. There's no doubt about it. They have the cap space. They have the trade assets. They're going to. Daryl Morey really didn't hide it, at his end of season presser. He's going after the big fish, whether that's a Paul George, whether that's a Jimmy Butler. That's the kind of guy he is looking for. So I think their first order of business is to try to see how and when and what it's going to look like to get that big fish. And then, once they do, they figure it out from there. Or if they don't, then it's got to be the plan B of seeing what else they can do in free agency. And again, with those draft picks, with those assets.
Yeah, with that known that they are going to try to go after a big fish, what about this team that they have right here, the free agents that they can talk to right now from their own team? What do you expect to come out of that, Paul? We just kind of went through the names, said whether we would keep or let go. Where do you think they stand on all those guys?
Yeah, I know Keith Pompey, reported, I think, a couple weeks ago that it seemed like the three guys they really wanted back were, obviously Nicholas Batum, Kyle Lowry, Kelly Oubre Jr., and I have nothing to suspect that's not the case. I mean, that surely feels like the three main guys, the biggest contributors from last year's team that they would like to have back. Batum was such a great fit, such a great glue guy, had a clear relationship with Joel Embiid. Kyle Lowry, I think, was excellent for Tyrese Maxey to learn from. He's another almost coach on the court. Along with Nick Nurse, they have such a great relationship. And then Oubre coming here on a minimum was fantastic. I mean, really, when you consider the value of a minimum contract, and I think him and Nick Nurse developed a nice relationship. And I think Nick Nurse really liked what Oubre brought, especially defensively. You saw Jalen Brunson constantly trying to get away from Kelly Oubre. Beyond that, Bob, it's murky. Does campaign want to come back on a minimum? That would be a guy I think they would have interest in. I think he played a nice role as kind of a second or third ball handler, a guy that can kind of scale up and down his role. Beyond that, Paul Reed, now his contract is no longer guaranteed, so I'm curious to see what kind of happens there. Do they waive him to get more cap space? Do they use him in a trade to maybe get a different kind of role player? So it's just a lot of stuff up in the air. Like I said, I think those three guys, though, those are the guys they are clearly intent on wanting to bring back, but a lot of it is going to depend on what happens kind of with those marquee names in free agency.
So in addition to being able to talk to their own free agents, we're a little bit over a week away from the NBA draft. Sixers are picking 16. What do you think's most likely to happen? Do they pick at 16 or do they trade that pick?
I don't know for sure, but if I had to guess, I could see Daryl Morey pulling a Howie Roseman, and that is just trading down and just acquiring as many more picks as humanly possible. Obviously, with the salary cap, not to get too far into the minutia of it, but if they trade out of the first round entirely, the second rounder, doesn't get a guaranteed contract. The scale is less. So with that, you can get more cap space, but then still acquire, players, young players that you could add to your talent pool. The Sixers have had a lot of success in recent years, too. When you just look at the undrafted guys they had last year, Ricky Council IV, Terquavion Smith. Before that, the 2020 draft, when you look at Isaiah Joe, who, unfortunately is not here anymore, but clearly an NBA player to find in the second round. Paul Reed, again, maybe a little bit disappointing, but it's clearly an NBA player. To get him with, I think, the second to last pick of the draft that's tremendous value. So I think they've done pretty well with finding guys like that. So I would be curious to see if maybe that's a move they would do. Perhaps, if a Rob Dillingham from Kentucky just falls, tumbles all the way down to 16, maybe there's too much value there to pass up and Daryl Morey pulls the trigger. But I see a lot of people saying like they might trade it for a role player. I'm not sure that they do that because I don't think Morey would like to have another contract and another player that could perhaps eat into that cap space. So unless he can get a guy with the 16th pick that's just on an unbelievable contract, I think it's more likely that they're going to trade back and perhaps completely out of the first round.
Talking to Paul Hudrick from Liberty Ballers on the Comcast Business Hotline. And, Paul, I put this out there a couple weeks ago as we continuously talk about the 76ers and building and fit and star players, all of those things. I was honest. I said, I don't know how to build around Joel Embiid. Obviously, you have Tyrese Maxey, but I was around it a lot when they tried to build around Joel Embiid. I saw all the pieces that they tried to bring in. I don't know how to build around him. Do you have kind of an idea of what you would do to build around Joel Embiid?
Well, I would say getting Paul George would be a pretty good start. When you look at Paul George's skill set as a big, playmaking wing that can get his own bucket, that, people don't realize how good of a shooter he still is. I think he was like 41% on a really high volume. I mean, that alone is huge. I think that's honestly the biggest thing, Bob, is shooting. You need to surround him with shooters. He needs guys that can shoot. And he also needs guys that can cut. And I think that's why Kelly Oubre had some success playing with him, because Kelly is not a great shooter, but he's a really good cutter and a really good finisher at the rim. So I think those are kind of the big things. And then I just think it's Joel. I mean, Joel, I think, has gotten better. I think you saw last year the steps he took, winning the MVP. And I think even, to start this year, how much better he was as a facilitator and recognizing the double teams. I think Nick Nurse, I'm sure, helped them a great deal, focusing on the things that they attacked in previous years as weaknesses for Joel. And Nick Nurse kind of told him, here, this is what we did for you, and this is what we saw against you. Here's how you can kind of flip the script on that and make it work, in your favor. And so I think part of it is just Joel kind of maturing and realizing, where his spots are on the floor, where he can be most dangerous. And I think it's trust, too. I think with Maxey, you mentioned some of the other pieces. Of course, I think he had a level of trust with James Harden. Him and Ben Simmons, we all know how that kind of worked out. I think that he trusts Tyrese Maxey more than he has ever trusted another player. And I would say, too, when you see Joel Embiid go on NBA Countdown sitting next to Paul George, I think that's a pretty clear indication that if you got that guy, he would trust him, too. So I think those are all factors. But the biggest thing to me, again, it's shooting. You need to find shooters so that Joel Embiid has outlets when he gets double-teamed.
You mentioned Joel on NBA Countdown. That was pretty funny, seeing him try to recruit Paul George. All signs are pointing towards, Paul George is probably the number one priority. If they can't get Paul George, what do you think option 2 is?
What they would like to do, I would think, is to explore a trade for Jimmy Butler. How realistic that is, I don't know, because clearly Jimmy wants that max extension, and I think the Sixers would be very willing to give him that if he got traded here. But the issue is it's Pat Riley you're dealing with. We all saw how staunch of a negotiator he is. The Damian Lillard stuff, everyone really expected Damian Lillard to be a member of the Miami Heat, and it just didn't work out because Riley was really playing hardball with the Trailblazers, and then, Damian Lillard obviously winds up going to the Bucks. We all know how that kind of ended, unfortunately, for Sixers fans, with Drew Holiday ultimately ending up with the Celtics. But I think, that's what makes it tricky with Jimmy Butler is I don't know that they're going to have they'll have the assets, but I think Riley is going to try to get every single last one of them out of Morey. Beyond that, you might be looking at a Brandon Ingram, who I think I think people have maybe jumped the shark on him a little bit. I think he's a little bit better than the perception. He's still only 26 years old. He's made an all-star team. I think you get him in here with a coach like Nick Nurse. I mentioned Oubre. You saw what Nurse was able to get out of a guy like that. I think you feel pretty good about getting a guy like Ingram in here. But I think that's what you're looking at. And then beyond that, I know Jake Fisher from Yahoo talked about the idea of balloon contracts, signing role players for like $20 million a year or something like that, and maybe that's the path they take. And that still leaves them with the ability to perhaps trade for a star down the road. So I think those are all options. I would say this. I think everything is going to be on the table because they have so much cap space, because they have trade assets. And because you have a guy like Daryl Morey, who, say whatever you want about him, he is an outside-the-box thinker, and he's not afraid to be creative.
So, Paul, could there be a case? You mentioned shooting, and obviously it's a thing that we've talked about, God, since Joel Embiid first started playing with the Sixers, of getting shooters around him. They've done it an awful lot. It hasn't gotten them to where they wanted to go, but I agree with you. You need shooters. You bring up Paul George, still a really, really good shooter. Could there be a case where they get Paul George and keep Buddy Hield also?
Maybe. It's going to depend on the market. It is tricky because, listen, the Sixers are not the only team that's looking for shooting, right? I mean, the shooters get paid in the NBA, no matter the degree or wherever. So I think Buddy Hield's going to have a market, a pretty good one, too, even though he did struggle against the Knicks up until that Game 6 where he really went off and they were really able to kind of expose those kind of holes in the Knicks defense once they paid so much attention to Maxey. But it would be tricky. I think the numbers would be they'd have something like, if they signed Paul George to the max, they'd have something around $13 million left in just pure cap space. So I'm not sure that would be enough to bring a guy like Buddy Hield back, unless his value has really tanked. I don't know that that's the case, but if it has, maybe that's a route they go. I think it's more likely with that cap space, they maybe look to add a player in a trade, a guy who's on a really good contract. I know, like a guy like Alex Caruso, the Bulls are playing, hardball big time with a guy like that, but his contract is so good and he's such a good player, one of the best defenders in the NBA. Maybe that's not the specific guy they get, but I think a guy like that is maybe more likely than spending cap space on Buddy Hield. That's just my opinion. It didn't sound to me like Daryl Morey, I think he kind of admitted he didn't think the fit was as good as he had hoped with Hield and with Joel Embiid. So, but Buddy Hield did seem open to the idea of coming back. So I think it's really largely going to depend on what his market looks like and if other teams have kind of soured on him.
Paul, we were throwing around some names on the roster that we'd like to have back, and one of them was Nico Batum, but we're not sure if he's going to retire. Bob seems to think he's leaning towards retirement. What's your feel on him?
See, I kind of think he comes back. We'll see what happens because it was a tough year for him. It was a difficult, getting traded, and he had some things going on, and it was just not great timing for him. And he's got a family, and I think he was very happy in LA as well. I think he liked his fit in the team. I think he liked his fit in the place. But I do think that he genuinely really enjoyed his time here. And I think the biggest factor might be Joel. Joel wants him back. I vividly remember, the last game of the season, everyone's in the locker room. We're talking to different guys, and as Nicholas Batum's doing his final interview, Joel Embiid literally walks by him and tells him, "No, you're coming back." Like that's happening. So. He's got a huge advocate there with Joel Embiid. So it might come down to money. Do they have to dip into their salary space to sign Batum? Because I don't know that he is a minimum guy. I think he's a guy that could get that, more than that, on the open market. 6'8" wings that can hit threes and defend, 5 different positions on some nights. Those guys tend to be pretty valuable around the league, especially when you look at, Batum as kind of that connected piece, a glue guy that just does so much to help win basketball games. So I actually lean towards, I think he comes back, and I think if he doesn't retire, I think it's sort of Philadelphia or he retires. That's kind of where I'm at.
All right, Paul, I'm going to finish you off with 2 quick questions here. One, is there like a rumor or a thought process that has surrounded this Sixers team following their loss to the Knicks that you are totally not on board with? Because I'll give you mine. I do not want Jimmy Butler here. Do you have one?
No, I mean, I think I already alluded to it, but I would say that, if they wind up with Brandon Ingram, I think Brandon Ingram's a pretty damn good player. I think he's, there were times where he was a better three-point shooter and a more willing three-point shooter when he had more playmakers to play with. You look at his playoff series against the Suns a couple years back, he almost single-handedly won them games without Zion Williamson. So I just think he is a guy who I think the value is down on him, but I think he's a pretty darn good player.
Okay, now this one should be an easy one for you, Paul. I think Tyrese Maxey and Joel Embiid will start for the 76ers next year. Give me another starter. Not 3 more, just 1 more.
Just 1 more. See, even that's tricky.
I know. That's why I asked the tricky questions, Paul. You taught me that well.
So I would actually, believe it or not, I'm going to say Kelly Oubre Jr. I think.
Oh man, yeah. He didn't take the bait. All right, give me another starter on that 76ers team there. And don't give me Kyle Lowry or Nick Batum either.
Listen, I think if they wind up with the big fish, listen, they're going to do everything they can to get Paul George. I really feel confident in that, and it does seem like the Clippers are playing a very dangerous game with him, because if they wanted him back, he'd already have an extension, and they want him to sign one like Kawhi Leonard did, and he doesn't seem like he wants to sign that. So it does sort of feel like they're calling his bluff a little bit, that he won't come to Philadelphia, but I'm telling you, if they let him take a visit here, the Sixers are going to pull out all the stops to make sure that he doesn't leave and that he becomes a Sixer and a starter next year.
All right, Paul, listen, I really appreciate you joining us. Kind of short notice I gave you today, but I would love for you to be a regular on the show. So I will be in touch with you, and we appreciate all your coverage on the Sixers.
Yeah, anytime, Bob. You got it, man.
All right, thanks. Paul Hudrick from Liberty Ballers joining us there. Some interesting things going on. Brandon Ingram's name is interesting, and it's kind of the outlier, outsider kind of name that's been out there. So I got two questions for you, Bill. One, how do you feel about Ingram coming here?
I'd rather have Paul George, and I know there's a lot of people whose concerns with Paul George is, oh, well, he can't stay healthy. Brandon Ingram hasn't played more than 70 games since his rookie season.
Yeah, there's a lot of health history there.
So that's my concern with Ingram, is I think Paul George is the better piece. But if you can't get Paul George, you can't get some maybe these other big names, then I would be okay with Brandon Ingram, but he's not my top choice.
Right, okay, so you said Paul George. I don't want to sound like I'm not listening to you. You said you'd rather have Paul George. But my question is this, a little deeper. How would you feel about Paul George? Because I have to be honest, Paul George to me, and I looked up all his numbers, and obviously I've seen him play hundreds of times and all that, I still kind of look and have that maybe, or are you settling? I don't, I got to get there. I'm not there yet. How do you feel about Paul George? If that's a signing, you're like, yep, okay, great. Or no?
It's hard because, one, I'm not NBA GM, and it's hard sometimes until you get a player in the building. But from what I've seen of Paul George, to me, he's going to fit perfectly with Embiid and Maxey. Now, whether or not that comes to fruition, we'll see once he gets here, hopefully. But I just look at him as that's the piece that they need. That type of player will fit perfectly with Embiid and Maxey.
How about you, Ray? I don't think I've ever gotten your feelings on Paul George.
All in.
Are you all in? Okay,
Yep.
It's a no doubt. See, I'm not there. I don't know why. I have to really study and get, I guess, deep within myself.
Yeah, I think you have to
Ray.
examine yourself on this one.
Okay.
I think this is one of those look inward moments of what better is out there and what better fits with this group.
Yeah, that's what I want to hear from you after the break, Bob. If it's not Paul George for you then, if you're not all in there, well, who would you be all in on?
Yeah, I have my number one guy, and I'll give that to you when we get back from the break. I'll admit sometimes if I don't know something, I'm not going to put up false bravado and say, no, or yes, yes, yes. On Paul George, I know what he is. I like what he is. Is that the right one? I don't know. And part of that might be because I've seen so many guys come into this team that was like, yeah, that's it. That's the piece you need. And it just didn't work. And you can't stop trying. You're always trying for perfection, like we talked about earlier with the Phillies. I just don't know. I'm stuck on this. I don't know what. You have to do something because you have one
That's
guy
true.
under contract right now. You got to field 15 players out there. So there's a lot to do. I don't know. We'll talk more about it when we get back. Bill Colarulo with us all day today. This is Middays. Bob Cooney, 97.5, The Fanatic. Hey, I want to tell you, 12 o'clock hour, it's brought to you by Service First Heating and Air Conditioning. Get 0% financing for 72 months and a $500 rebate when you purchase a complete heating and cooling system from Service First. Learn more at servicefirsthvac.com. I'm getting chided a little bit here because, as you know, I run the Masters pool, the big golf tournaments. I run the pools. Everybody, I set it up for everybody. They pick it, all that stuff, and then I do all the math and put it all out there so everybody can see it. I can't say I can't stand it, but I am hesitant when I say that I won.
Again.
Again's the key word there.
Yeah.
I won the Masters, and now I've won the U.S. Open, yes. So there's no hanky-panky. There's nothing going. Hanky-panky's the wrong word, but there's no I make one of the guys take a picture of my picks before the tournament starts. I don't look at anybody else's picks before I make my picks. It's all on the up and up, I promise.
See, I don't think that you are rigging it. What I think it is you're taking advantage of everyone because you got more knowledge. And you're saying, you know what, I'm going to force everyone to do these pools and collect the bag at the end.
So this is the 12th time I've run a pool here at the office. I've only won twice. We've also had other guys that have won twice. I don't know. And I do. I have that because I see the look on people's face. They'll come down. They're like, all right, who won? And I lay everything out. And I'm like, yeah. And although they don't want to look at me and go like, what the hell? I can read it on their face. They're going, what the hell? Amy had the best line because I said to her, yeah, I almost feel like guilty. And she goes, well, then tell them to pick better. I was like, that's a good point.
If you want a $10 donation from me, you can have it, okay?
All right, cool. Bring it in.
I
Bring it in
gave
during
it
the
to
break.
you, apparently.
But how about
you didn't. You were like middle of the pack. We have all the new kid Sean, brand new to the station. So the way we
Somehow
do it
lost by $40,000.
$40,000, and that's really, really, really close.
Just like Petrelli somehow lost.
Petrelli came in fourth place. Petrelli, so you can't. The way this works is we do pairings. So I'll match up 12 different pairings. You have to pick one person from each pairing. And then you pick 3 wild cards. If your guy makes the cut, you win his prize money. So all the prize money you accumulate is all added up. Whoever has the most prize money wins. So my winning prize money was like $8.43 million or 8.44. The guy that came in second was like 8.38. Something
that
crazy.
was Sean, the new producer.
Sean, yes.
But don't feel too bad for him because he won. He gets to produce my shows on Saturday and Sunday mornings now.
There it is.
That's basically like winning the pool.
That's basically like winning, Sean.
I would say it's better than winning a pool. Yeah.
Or you'd say that as someone who's won the pool back-to-back times.
Yeah, there you go.
And the pool that you run.
Now, see, I would think a friend, a producer, a coworker, a guy that I spend the most time with at this station, there might be good for you. No, I get ranked on by you.
Well, I'll be honest.
Really?
After the first one, I was like, all right, you know what? He won his own pool. That's cool. I have now been working with you for 2 pools, both of which you have won.
You're good luck to me.
Am I good luck? Or are people going to start thinking that I'm an accomplice to something going on bigger than me?
It's why last time you copied my pool, this time Brendan Gunn took a picture of my pool on Wednesday morning at 8:48, and you even know that a couple people went to hand theirs in, and I said, put them face down over there. I can't look at anybody else's until I make my picks.
All I'm going to say is the weekend that Brendan Gunn had the picture of your pool, he could somehow afford to go to Boston. That's all I'm going to say.
But you know,
that's all you should say.
You know
It
what,
just seems like a little much.
Yeah, okay.
the crazier thing than you winning back-to-back is that Rory McIlroy. I mean, you look at Rory. This is a guy who won both the Open Championship and the PGA Championship in 2014. He was the 3rd golfer ever to win 3 majors by the age of 25, joining Tiger Woods and Jack Nicklaus.
Yeah.
He hasn't won since. He has not won a major since 2014. That is mind-blowing. And look, I'm a terrible golfer. I try my best. I'm a terrible golfer. I've played Pinehurst number 2. I would have made the putt Rory missed. Just saying. I would have made it.
Wow.
Ooh.
How do you like that?
That was a choke job right there.
Yeah.
He lost more than DeChambeau won. I think we are okay to say, right?
Yeah, I think he lost. And it's a shame. Look, I don't hate on Rory. I don't think it was that big of a deal that he didn't congratulate DeChambeau after. I can see why he was upset. And he put out a statement. I think you pointed that out, Bob.
Yeah.
But the fact that he has not, as good of a golfer as he is, has not won a major championship in 10 years is mind-blowing.
Yeah, and we talked about his reaction, and this is we're not just talking golf, we're talking sports here, because I know there's not a huge amount of golf fans that follow, but I don't mind an athlete having a bad reaction to losing sometime. Now, a bad reaction meaning I don't want him throwing a hockey stick at the opponent or, throwing a basketball at a guy after he just beat you. Like, I don't mind. That's an individual sport, golf, obviously. I don't mind that he lost and he took it and he got in his car and left. Now, you want to be the bigger man. You want to be able to go over and shake a hand and congratulate somebody and do all that. But, man, I've been a sore loser before. I'm sure you have, Bill. We all have been. And these guys, yes, they're in the limelight, and they make tons of money, and that'll be to a lot of people, that'll be your first reaction. Oh, what's he mad at? He won $2.3 million, and, okay, he should be happy enough with that he went and he should have gone and shaken a hand. I kind of like that this guy makes a gajillion dollars, and he still gets pissed off when he loses. I love that in an athlete.
Yeah, I don't mind it. I don't mind it, and look, you talk about a gajillion dollars. This is a nice transition into what we were talking about before the break. I had asked you if it wasn't Paul George, who would be your number one. Well, I'm just seeing on Twitter, Bob, and I don't know if this will factor into your answer, but Windhorse from ESPN is reporting that OG Anunoby is not thrilled with the Knicks' current offer and will test the free agent market.
Love it. Because I think with OG, yeah, Ray, you're on too, right? Because I think with OG, that's the first of what might be two big moves. You know what I mean? Then you get another, maybe a Buddy Hield is a guy that you could do, or maybe you could even up a Buddy Hield than that. What were you going to say? I'm sorry, Ray. Yeah. You're skeeved on Buddy Hield.
The OG Buddy for me, I don't know if that does my. If that's
I just meant I didn't mean exactly Buddy. What I'm saying is maybe I should have said contract like a Buddy Hield you could afford if you bring in an OG Anunoby. I don't know. How do you feel about? Look, I'll answer your question first, Bill. Number one is LeBron James.
I'm with you on that.
LeBron James is a game changer, is a organizational changer. That makes me think over the next 3 years they have a chance, if they signed him 3 years, to win a couple of championships.
But I think everyone, maybe with the exception of John in the mornings, is saying LeBron would be their number one. I just don't see LeBron coming to Philadelphia. I just don't see it happening. But if he wanted to, yeah, do whatever you got to do to get him here. But assuming LeBron says, no, I'm staying out west, Bob, and you're so-so on Paul George, if you're Daryl Morey, what's your first move?
Yeah, it's a good question. I don't know. If LeBron stays out west, Paul George, you think Paul George going to stay out west?
I think it's a bigger conversation than just like what LeBron is. Like, I think for LeBron, I think if he doesn't stay out west, I don't think it's a trip over here. To me, I legitimately feel like it's going to be Paul George decides to stay home, and that what they're doing for the Clippers, and like Ballmer's like, we got an arena to pack. Let's give this guy what he wants and make sure that we at least have some sort of core to sell to this fan base. Or he comes here because he wants to win.
OG and Paul George?
If that happens, Bob, I'm going to leave this seat, and I'll be running up and down City Ave just celebrating.
Financially, you could probably make that happen, right? I think you could probably fit that.
Yeah, I got to tell you, even covering the league for years, anytime this stuff came up, I couldn't figure it out. I would just have to make a phone call.
Yeah.
I think assistant GM, does this work? Can you guys do this? And then I'd get the explanation, and I would just hear yes or no.
I would tell you that OG and Paul George probably feels like a little too rich for the blood, even for a team with as much cap space.
Maybe.
But I'll tell you, if that somehow happened, if you somehow worked that one out, someone else would have to need to sit in this chair because I'd be running laps around this area celebrating.
But
all right, go ahead.
I was going to say, Bob, this just highlights for me is I ask you these questions and you're hesitant to give an answer, and you're one of the most knowledgeable basketball minds I know. I mean that 100%. It just goes to show this is the season. This is the offseason where Daryl Morey, everything we've heard about him, how smart he is, how great of a acquisition it was to bring him in here to make the shot, call the shots for this organization. This is going to be the offseason where he has to prove it to me because there are all these question marks. Even you're hemming and hawing, saying, I don't know what I would do. Morey's got to get it right.
He does, and I know all the names out there, and I could go out and sign people. Is it the way you have to go in order to get the most out of Joel Embiid, in order to get as close as you can to win a championship? I just don't know. Shooters and slashers and breakdown dribble guys and defenders and all. I just don't know, after having seen so many of them brought in through the years, exactly how to go about it. Maybe it's as simple as the philosophy that I always have. Give me the best players and I'll make it work. They've gotten some of the best players and they haven't been able to make it work. So I just don't know if there's just a exact science as to how they should do it. Ray, you were talking about running, and you were a all-state cross-country runner back in the day.
If everyone else in the state was disqualified, yes, I was all-state.
Why can't you just let it go? What's the best minute mile you've run?
5:08.
Wow.
5:08.
That's pretty good, Ray.
Not compared to my peers.
We don't compared to me and Bill, it's great.
Yeah,
okay, we're
okay.
your peers right now.
Yeah,
That's
okay,
all
but
that matters.
I'm not going to do the bravado. I'm the athlete of the station thing. I just want that to be
I
clear.
wasn't asking you that.
I know.
I was just asking you a
You're
question
giving-
because you gave me the minute 5.
I could
Yeah,
never get
okay.
into the cross country, though, to be honest with you, because for me, running was always a punishment. In football, you were punished by being told to run.
Kind of my punishment, too. I just did it for an entire sport. I didn't do it because I loved it.
Well, we were talking about winning and losing, obviously. You gave me the number 5. So how about if we do this right now? I have 2 pair of FanFest tickets to give away to caller number 5 at 215-263-0975. Caller number 5, 215-263-0975 wins a pair of tickets to FanFest. FanFest is going to be so much fun. Bill, I can't wait to see you there because your eyes are going to light up at how much fun it is.
I can't wait.
It's such a great day. It's in sponsorship. It's in, we're in with FanDuel on FanFest. It's Saturday, September 28th at Xfinity Live. All the Fanatic hosts, we're all going to be there. There's going to be celebrity guests, Philly sports legends, a bunch of activities, games, and prizes. So many things to do. It's the biggest party of the year for Philadelphia sports fans. Listen all week and this weekend to win tickets. Go to 975thefanatic.com for all the details, including info for our online ticket raids, which will be starting up soon. Like I said to you before, and everybody at the station will let you know, if you want to go to FanFest, you're going to find a way to get tickets to go to FanFest. You just have to make the effort there. All right, when we get back, we have some more Phillies talk we want to get into. Johan Rojas, no longer with the big club. Are you okay with that? Let's take a little deeper dive into that and maybe take a look at what you want the Phillies to do before this trade deadline comes up. Bill's going to be here with us for the rest of the show. I'm Bob Cooney, middays, 97.5 The Fanatic. 12:47 here at the Fanatic. Thanks for being with us today on this beautiful Tuesday. We always hope that you're having a good one. Our YouTubers, we love you guys. Thanks so much for being a part of us, as you always are. A lot of great talk going around. It's fun when you bring up a topic. Like, it's great. You'll bring up a topic that people, listeners, will really react to. Others, they sit back, might think about it. When you bring something up and the office starts really talking about it, it's fun, too. And we're all talking. And I just had Brandon came in. And he's like, yo, Bob, I got a question for you. He's been here. How many hours has he been here? Like 2. He's like, I got a question for you. Why don't you want Jimmy Butler? And I said, I think that's run its course. Jimmy Butler 5 years ago, whatever. Yeah, I wish that would have stayed together at that time. I really liked that team, the way it was all set up. And you could have added to it. Saw that the bench was a little short, maybe added to that. I thought you had something good there. Jimmy Butler now, besides having to give up assets to get him, it's just me. You can't help how you feel. I don't feel like that would be a great fit for the Sixers right now.
Nah, and I know a lot of people talk about, he got along so well with Joel. That was a long time ago, and it was only for 55 regular season games. I'm just not sure the Joel Embiid of now, going through the next couple of seasons with Jimmy Butler, does he start to wear out his welcome a little bit, especially with a young Tyrese Maxey? I just don't know if the fit is as good as it would be with some other players. And again, those who were concerned about Paul George saying he's too old, he gets hurt, played 74 games last year. Jimmy Butler played 60, 64 the year before, 57 the year before that, 52 the year before that, 58 the year before. So, I mean, it's not as if Jimmy Butler is this durable player either. So, for me, if that was the only option, they got to do something, but that's not my top choice.
Yeah, I got to tell you, it's that we're going through here, and we had Paul Hudrick from Liberty Ballers on earlier, and he was talking about and agreeing with something that Keith Pompey had written from the Inquirer a couple of weeks ago, that it looks like Batum, Lowry, and Oubre Jr. are probably the 3 guys currently on roster, on last year's roster, that they might look to bring back. Let's take a look at this. Okay, you have a wide open canvas here. We know that Embiid's back. You know that Tyrese Maxey's going to come back. We talk about all the people to surround. LeBron James is 40. That's my number one choice. We talk about Paul George. He's 34. We talk about Nick Batum, 35. We're talking Kyle Lowry, going to be 40, I believe. Are we getting to the point of kind of like, wait, what are we doing here? Or, all right, there's a few ways of looking at it. Does it just so happen that the best available players are pretty old? Or is it a case of, no, best players in the league, they get to that age and they're still that? Or, what are we doing here?
I mean,
what is it?
You look at the Boston Celtics, who just won the NBA title last night. Al Horford, 38. Drew Holiday, 34. I mean, granted, they have Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum.
Yeah, who are 26 and 27.
But, I mean, those guys aren't young, the surrounding pieces. Yeah, Derek White's only 29. So, I mean, you do have to be young. But the way I look at it, the reason I'm okay with maybe bringing in some of these older players is because what is the window left when Joel Embiid is in his prime? So do anything you have to do to try to win within the next 3 or 4 seasons. And then if it doesn't work in 3 or 4 years, you pivot, and now you could build around a Maxey and Embiid, who's probably going to be a different player in 4 years.
Does it surprise you, Ray, at the age of some of these people that we've attached to the Sixers? And when you look at it, if you have a team built of Batum and Lowry and, I don't know, maybe a LeBron, maybe a Paul George, maybe a Jimmy Butler, all of these guys that we're talking about, you're talking about 35 years old average, if not a little bit older.
It doesn't surprise me when we're talking marquee and when we're talking about guys who are on this team. We made the comment during the postseason of like, wow, the 2 guys, and even before the postseason, wow, the 2 guys I see all over the floor making some difference-making plays is the 35-year-old Nico Batum and the 39-year-old Kyle Lowry. Like, we were like, wow, look at the value of having those guys out there. Now, I don't want to see them play as big a role and as big a minutes as they did a season ago, which is a part of going into this offseason with like, hey, you have all of these roster spaces to go make something happen. And again, Lowry, to me, is more like he's knocking on the door. He's like, hey, I'm a Philadelphian. I want one more season.
Can I do the retirement tour?
Yeah, can I hang out here as your third point? Like,
I don't think Kyle Lowry's that, so I don't want to put the perception out there that I think he's like, I want to do one last round in the league. I think he's the kind of guy that says, yeah, I want to play one more year. I'm just going to play my ass off, and I'm not doing I'm not doing it for show.
No, I wouldn't think he was doing it for show.
No, so I didn't want to be perceived that I was saying.
No, but I want to play my final season. Like, okay, you can come do that here. But why I'm saying this with all the old guys is because we're talking about a lot of the marquee guys. The non-returning Sixers, we're talking about marquee players who have been in this league who are known commodities. The reason we're not talking about a lot of young guys, like Ingram's the one guy. Brandon Ingram made an all-star game. Like, what has he done in the league? Like, that's like the one guy, 26. OG Anunoby. I love the player. I think the player is fantastic. But again, he was a guy who played on a Knicks team that got bounced in the second round and who has had a little bit of, we go back to injuries. He's 26, so we're talking about, well, when he was available for the Knicks, they were really good. Like, there's a few guys who get to their mid-20s and are known commodities when you get to these conversations. But a lot of the known players, the players that have been superstars in this league and shown their value time and time again, just are at that age because now we know what they are. That's why when we go with the youth movement, it's like, okay, who's the young player? Give me the young player that makes sense on this team. Then we can start to have that conversation. But going young just to be young I don't think is a team building exercise. It's we didn't work out with anything else, so now we're going to sell everyone on promise instead of a known commodity.
So let me ask you something off of what Paul Hudrick said to us, and that's that he thought that the Sixers might trade back, maybe even out of the first round. Economically, that makes sense because second-round player, non-guaranteed, all that kind of stuff. Where do you sit as far as that 16th pick goes, Bill? Saying you're going after big guys and maybe a Paul George and that, and you got to fill out roster spot. Are you kind of with Paul like, yeah, you just get rid of that because you don't have to worry about pay and that guy's not going to be like a known commodity for you? Or do you think it's something you can hit on?
This isn't the NFL draft, you know what I mean? The 16th overall pick, the chances of you getting a guy that's actually going to make an impact, it's not likely. I mean, the Tyrese Maxeys of the world aren't always there at that late in the draft. So for me, if you can trade out, pick up some maybe more pieces to utilize to go out and get a star, if that's what you needed to do, then I'm okay with it. And look, I don't follow college basketball as much as others do, so I can't give you a name at 16 that I'd say, yeah, he's the guy I would take there. It's just very unlikely that the 16th overall pick is going to be an impact player.
How about you, Ray? Like, just generalization of, like, that 16th pick. Is there something in your head that you say, yeah, you have to do this?
We'd all say Tyrese Maxey was a success where he was picked, correct?
Yes.
All right. Then if we're looking at how long it took for us to get to that point, I don't have that much time to get a mid-round, first-round pick to the point of being a success the way we've seen Maxey. Now, to be a contributor, yeah, maybe we do have a 2-3 year project there that you can make work. But the problem is, I think someone you're getting at that time isn't going to be the massive minutes guy for a championship team next season. Probably not even the season after that. That, to me, lends it to say, like, okay, if you think you can get a contributor, I don't need it to be I don't think you're really packaging 16 unless you get 2028 and somehow, some way convince a team that they're in a dire spot to give someone up, that you're getting a star for that pick in any sort of package. But if I can get a contributor for it, okay, yeah, that's where I'm looking like, someone that can play a role alongside whoever else you bring in as the star. That's where I would go with 16.
Now, I go back and forth with this because I'm like, I try to put myself in the GM chair and be like, all right, is there somebody at 16 that I've watched this year in college basketball where I say, you know what? I really like this guy. I am going to take a chance on him. And it's a guy that, I think I could plug in. My favorite position if I'm taking a shot on a guy is point guard. And like I said it before, like the Jason Williams the guy where a guy that is just an unbelievable passer and a guy that can do all this. If there's a guy there, I don't know. I think I might go for it. There's this guy, Tyler Kolek from Marquette, that really interests me.
But to Ray's point, Bob, even if it's a player like that, you're probably not. He's not making an impact as a rookie, is he?
Not unless for some reason it hits, and he's surrounded by star players, and you just need a guy that can hit an open shot, that makes the right pass, that might be even a little bit more of a playmaker than you thought he was. So much to go on with this Sixers stuff here. It's really interesting. We'll get back to some Phillies also. What do you do with this outfield? I have a specific question, and I have an admission also about myself that you may not like. I'll tell you about that and a whole lot more. This is Middays, Bob Cooney, 97.5, The Fanatic. O'clock here at the Fanatic. So glad you're with us. Got to tell you, it's brought to you by Ferguson HVAC Lyon Conklin. Attention HVAC contractors for equipment, parts, and supplies for every heating and cooling job. Visit one of Ferguson's counter locations in Bensalem, King of Prussia, Pennsauken, or Westchester. So we got Phillies going on tonight. I thought it was one of those breathable games last night where I wanted/needed to see that type of game. As I said earlier, as the game was beginning, I was going to watch it on a different TV. I said to my wife, I was like, Donna, I just need like a 14-2 win by the team tonight. I need an easy win tonight. Those were the exact numbers I gave him. Turned out to be a 9-2 win. Something you wanted to see. Kyle Schwarber, my God, the way he mashes in June. I love watching that guy come to bat anymore.
It really is incredible what this guy does in the month of June. And the good thing about this June compared to others is he didn't necessarily need June to get him back on track. He's had a pretty good season, not necessarily hitting as many home runs early as you would have thought, but this has been a great year for Schwarber. And I thought it, and a lot of people thought he was going to have a good season because he came in the spring training. He looked like he was in really good shape.
Yeah, definitely lost some pounds. Some people were wondering if that was messing with his power. It hasn't. I mean, bombs last night, a 441-foot shot. I loved as soon as he hit the ball the way he laid the bat down and just said, let me enjoy this for a minute. And he watched it. The thrill that teammates get out of him doing this in June is so much fun. I heard yesterday, what was I going to say here? I heard yesterday, what did I hear yesterday? There was something, I thought Ray might have said something, but I can't remember what it is right away off the bat. But I have to give you an admission of something. And the morning show was talking about it, and John has been on this, I don't want to call it a rampage because that makes it sound, but I will. I'll call it a rampage about Nick Castellanos and saying, why the hell does everybody else get days off and Nick Castellanos doesn't? And Rob Thompson won't give him a day off, and what's the reason for it? I don't know. I don't know what the reason for it is. I do see Nick Castellanos' numbers. I do see that 2 for 4 last night got him all the way up to 209. I read you his numbers from last year. He's not going to come close to them this year. I hear what John's complaint is and others also. I don't know why. I can honestly say this. I'm not there either. I'm not there saying, oh, you got to sit him. Oh, what are you doing throwing him out there every day? I'm okay with it. And I wanted to get your guys' reaction to it. Does he, in your eyes, maybe need a couple of days off? It worked for Alec Boehm. All he's done is gone 11 for his last 17, and gone crazy in his last 4 games. I assume Nick Castellanos is going to play 160 games out in right field. And I got to tell you, my feeling is I'm okay with it. What about you guys? Bill, what do you think of that so much has been made of it by a lot of people, and I understand it. I honestly do. I don't know why I feel the way I do, but I am okay with it.
I don't understand why they won't sit him down. I don't know what the reasoning is behind it.
Me neither.
But unlike a guy like maybe an Alec Boehm where you sit down and he bounces back in a big way like he has, that zebra's not changing his stripes, Nick Castellanos. I mean, he's going to go up there with zero plan at the plate. He's going to swing and swing and swing. I mean, it's not as if, sit down and take a day off and maybe get your swing back. I mean, this is just who he is, and we're going to have to live and die with it.
Ray, how do you feel about the whole Nick Castellanos, Rob Thompson just says, I'm throwing him out there every day. Whether you guys like it or not, that's what I'm going to do. I honest to God, I think I have some secondary reasons why I'm behind it, and I'll explain that after you give your answer.
So just blindly when I go into it, I'm like, it makes sense for a guy that's had this tough a time to sit down. But ultimately, if Castellanos believes his best course of action is being out there, he knows himself better than me. If Rob Thompson trusts him with that, he knows him better than me. And really, when I start to think about it, because I think I've been down this path before of like, okay, let's give him a day off. Like, what's the harm here? Well, what's the harm right now is we're talking about every other outfielder on this roster. And what's the outfield going to look like with Nick Castellanos on the bench? It's like, Castellanos is hitting 204. Let's see. Do we want to go with the 200 hitting Dahl, the 191 hitting Whit Merrifield, Christian Pache, who we've given plenty of flack for the way he hits?
219.
219. There you go. I appreciate you giving me the number. Like, Marsh is going to be out there. And what? So I understand it. It's like we're trying to catch a little bit of like, hey, please, it's like a match where you're like, is there anything left here to kind of get the spark here for a little bit of heat? And that's what you feel like you're doing right now with Castellanos. Like, come on, it's like a windy night. Let's just see if we can get this. And to me, maybe we keep trying with the match there because you got no other option for starting a little bit of fire out there in terms of outfield production.
So when I look real deep into this within myself, this is what I come up with. One, and Ray, you know this better than anybody, and Bill, you've heard me complain about it. The Bryson Stott thing, where, he platoons him a little more than my liking, maybe that's who I am. Put your regulars in there and let them go. So maybe that's one of the reasonings behind my feeling of I'm okay with Nick Castellanos. Number two, what was the most questioned thing about Rob Thompson from about 20 games in last year till the beginning of this year? Kyle Schwarber leading off, right? Wasn't that the most argued point probably that we had about the Phillies if we add it all up? Rob Thompson was like, I don't care what you think. I'm like, he's going to be my leadoff hitter. There wasn't great backing by the average of Kyle Schwarber to say, oh, yeah, he should be your leadoff hitter because he's hitting 43 home runs but hitting 200. That's not a leadoff hitter. But Rob Thompson said, you know what? We win when he's there. I'm riding with it. Man, has that disintegrated any talk of he shouldn't be there anymore? Maybe that is playing in my mind also, that he had patience with Schwarber. Why not, trust him in the patience with Castellanos? Two totally different things, Bill, or do you think they're a little bit related?
I think they're different because you talk about Schwarber, it wasn't as if he was struggling. It was just where he was in the lineup. With Casty, it's just he just disappears. He just completely disappears. But I guess you could relate it in the fact that Rob Thompson does show patience. He definitely shows patience and sticks to his guns on things. But everything we're talking about and everything Ray just went through with regard to, well, there's no better options, again, just keeps highlighting what we started this show with. Dombrowski has to go out and get a bat in the outfield. Are we being greedy? Are we nitpicking? Sure. But when you have a team like this Phillies team where the goal is World Series or busts, you cannot go into October with this outfield the way it is, with a guy like Nick Castellanos who completely disappears, and you have no pop on the other two spots. And the fact that they had to send down Rojas because they were afraid that they would lose a David Dahl. David Dahl, they were afraid to lose that bat, to me signals there is a real problem that needs to be addressed before October.
So let's go, like point counterpoint. You started out the season, what were they, 40-19 or 42-19, something like that, best record in baseball. And basically your outfield was Marsh in left, Rojas in center, Castellanos in right. If you're going to say, well, let's go back to when we were playing our best baseball, can we be okay with that?
So I was not one of the look who they're playing crowds. You play who's in front of you, right? But when we're going to look forward to October, you are going to be playing the best teams in the National League and then eventually the best team in the American League. So to look at how good they've been to start the season, yes, it's great. Not taking anything away from them. But when they start going against the best teams in baseball, I don't think that outfield cuts it.
Great answer. Ray, what do you think?
It's funny because we're rolling through, and I think this was an exercise I got into with Josh at some point. We're like, all right, let's look at the Dodgers lineup.
Away from the station or at the station?
It might have been away. It might have been on the air. I
might
talked
have been in a bar.
Yeah, who knows? Yeah. We talk. But, like, okay, what do you have when you look at the Dodgers lineup, you look at this lineup? And we were like, when we were really Philly-centric on this one, and it did come out to the, okay, what in the outfield is the difference maker here? Is like, your Teoscar Hernandez having the season he is for the Dodgers, one of the differences. And it's like, well, if you can catch a little bit, because Teoscar's not like, when we're talking about Teoscar Hernandez, we're not talking about a guy that I think a hot Nick Castellanos can't try and, can't replicate that type of production, but am I going to be scared about getting that version of him? And also when I look at some of the other positions on this Phillies team, again, I'm going to come back to the Stott thing. I need him to be who he is. I think there is a move to be made with this outfield. Ultimately, I think right now, the reason why you're being so protective of David Dahl, protective of Pache, protective of all these things, you've put effort into making them major league contributors. You are not the only team that faces this issue right now. When you look at the Braves, hey, Austin Riley's starting to hit again. Hey, look, they had a nice couple of games where they thought maybe we're going to start figuring things out. They see what's going on with the Phillies. Maybe they start thinking, okay, maybe we can be that team. Brian Snitker, for some reason, said that they're going to win the East, which is the dumbest thing he possibly could have said. But, hey, man, props to you on trying to give the Phillies billboard material when they're up 9 games on you already, or 8 games on you.
This past weekend, right?
He said it, I think last night. He said it oh, yeah, we plan on winning the East. Good luck.
Well, of course you do. Of course you plan on winning it.
Yeah, but he was put in a situation.
On winning the World Series, too.
Yeah, it was put in a situation of, like, oh, you think it's going to be good for you to play a wild card series? Like, oh, no, we don't plan on playing the wild card series. Like, all right, good luck, bud. We'll talk to you in September. Love to see what you guys got going on. But they're one of the teams right now.
Wow.
Yeah, listen. They're up 8 games on a team that doesn't have Ronald Acuna and Spencer Strider. If I can't get Chesney during that time.
Yeah, you can get Chesney. That's okay for doing what he said. Yeah, he wants to get a message to his team.
Yeah, that's great. Send that message. Maybe one of those regulars
Just
down
don't
there.
make me a part of.
Yeah, I'm going to have the response I'm going to have to it because he's going to say what he said. But they're one of the teams that you're looking at, like, they need the outfield help, too. Like, they desperately need it, too. So we could get so excited about this outfield help right now. I will be just cautious to see the way everything else transpires around the league. Like, we're up on Luis Robert right now. What stops the Braves from being all about it? What stops other teams around the league from being about it? I do think they need upgrades in terms of bats, but I'm really curious to see what the next month or so brings. Like, can we finally get Casty out of this? Are we going to see Marsh, evolve into something more back from this injury? Like, I want to see him in an everyday situation right now. I do kind of want to see what I have in him because I have so much uncertainty in that outfield. I'd love to see really what I have in Marsh.
A thought just popped into my head, and it kind of not contradicts, but it adds thinking to what my belief was before, in that I didn't like a light-hitting center fielder and a light-hitting left fielder. However, you throw in the DH in all of this. Kyle Schwarber's an outfielder. You throw in the DH, so let's say the DH is your 4th outfielder. Castellanos, I believe, is going to hit about 240 this year. I think he's going to find himself a little. He'll wind up, say, hitting around 240. If that happens, that means he's hitting probably around 280 the rest of the year, something like that. I just have some confidence he's going to reach you 18 home runs. Schwarber hits you 40. Out of your 4 outfielders, I think Marsh will get you, like, and I'm saying 4th outfielders, like I'm including the DH. Maybe you can go more defensive in center and left, because you are getting 45 home runs from your DH, and you transpose that as one of your outfielders. Maybe that's the Phillies thinking, like, yeah, defense has to come first in left and center because, oh, yeah, we have a leadoff hitter that's a DH that's hitting 45.
The only reason I'm not there with you is because, and Ray said earlier, well, maybe Castellanos comes out of this, is I will never have 100% faith in Nick Castellanos after what we've seen in the past. The fact that he went 0 for 20 with 10 strikeouts to finish the postseason last year. That even with Kyle Schwarber, if you want to consider him your 4th outfielder at the DH, even if Castellanos bats 250 the rest of the way, 260, whatever, I'm not going to have enough confidence in him going into the postseason that I'm okay with the other 2 positions being where they are. I think for this team to get over the hump and win the World Series, which anything less would be a disappointment, you cannot put your faith in a guy that has proven to disappear at the biggest moments.
Go ahead, Ray.
I'm just going back to, like, when we look at building this team, we're so set on this lineup right now that I do think we have to remember where the power of this has been this year, and that's the rotation. And to me, that's the great equalizer for any of the lineups that we've had. Like, and we've seen this in the playoffs over the last 2 years. What lineup would you have taken in the NLDS?
Over the last 2 years, this one.
Over the Braves?
Yeah, no, he's talking about the Braves.
I'm sorry.
No.
I thought you meant just okay.
Yeah, I mean the Phillies or the Braves. Whose lineup, like, just
the
on
Braves
paper?
the last 2 years.
Braves.
Yeah.
Right. The pitching's been the
What did that
equalizer.
mean? Yeah, exactly.
The Diamondback series. Like, to me, if I'm looking back at those 2 teams, the lineups,
It's the Phillies.
it's the Phillies. Like, I think the great equalizer in what we have right now, and the reason why we're so fortunate, we're 24 games over 500. We're talking about adding a bat to the team. Yeah, we're fortunate. The reason we're so fortunate right now is because we're talking about a rotation that's given you this much leeway already and giving you this much of a lead that it's like, oh, yeah, while other teams are dealing with oh, what are we going to do without Yamamoto for a couple months? Now the Dodgers dealing with what they're going to do without Betts for a couple months. The Braves right now, hey, I think we figured out this third starter with Chris Sale. Well, now you don't have Strider. Like, we're in a great spot because the bat for us is like the luxury piece that like completes what we think is the puzzle. We are in a better spot because of the rotation and because of the pitching that we have right now that I think we get so scared thinking about offensive production when we've seen time and time again that it's been the pitching that's gotten the teams where they need to go, and I think we have that right now.
Yeah, and it's funny because if you're fully healthy and you go back to saying, okay, let's go back to where we started from, your 3 weakest hitters are probably your whole outfield, and they'll be hitting 7, 8, and 9. You know what I mean? Like
right.
When Real Muto comes back and all that, you're probably going to go 1 through 6 and then go Castellanos 7, Marsh 8, and Rojas or Pache, whatever you want to do, at 9. We were fine with that at the beginning of the year. I think we were fine with that 10 days ago. Or, however many days ago it was. I know Turner was out, whatever. It's funny, though. You're always looking to get better. We love these Phillies. We think they're a great team. We want them to be greater. And I guess it's all on the shoulder. Well, all right, let me put it this way. For them to be greater, is it more on the shoulders of Dave Dombrowski or Nick Castellanos?
Dave Dombrowski. I think they have to.
Because you don't have that confidence in Castellanos.
No, and I think Castellanos, this is who he is. I don't know what we're expecting from him. Over the last 3 seasons, we've seen it. When it's good, it's great. When it's bad, it is terrible. And that's what he's going to give you the rest of the season and into the playoffs. He may show up like he did in the NLDS where he's doing things that even Mr. October, Reggie Jackson, didn't do. And I loved him. And then he's going to disappear. So I'm not sure why we would – what's the definition of insanity? Trying the same thing over and over, expecting a different result?
Yeah.
This is what you're going to get from him. So I think it's up to Dombrowski to upgrade those other positions. And to Ray's point, when you look at the NLDS in the previous seasons against the Braves had the better roster. Better roster doesn't always win it. So that's why I'm nitpicking. That's why I'm being greedy. Do everything you can before the trade deadline to make this by far the best team in baseball. And to me, it's adding another bat in the outfield.
What do you think, Ray? Who has to carry the weight on their shoulders? Is it more Dave Dombrowski or more Nick Castellanos?
It's going to be Dombrowski. I think we do put a lot of focus on Castellanos. I think a lot goes back to the contract and a lot goes back to the fact that, I do think we're starting to see in our own, and this is something I know they talked about yesterday at the Best Show Ever, where it's like we're starting to see some of the Philadelphia isms of like being a fandom come out. We're like, oh, Stott's a homegrown guy. We like him. He's going to be something. Castellanos, we signed him. He hasn't been what we signed him for. We don't like him for that. I think we start to see some of those paths. I can't put the entire lineup on Castellanos. I could put it on the guy that was the architect of the lineup, though. And that, to me, that goes back to Dombrowski. Castellanos, ultimately, I want him to be better than what he's been, but I can't put the entire success and failure of a season upon him because if he's not, we've already seen him beat 24 games over 500, and we're sitting here talking about him hitting 205, 207, whatever it is right now. So it can't all just be, more of the onus is on Castellanos. It's got to be more on the guy that was the architect of this thing.
I will have a rebuttal to that, Ray. It's almost like, you and I are going at each other here. I'm not going against you, but I'll have a rebuttal to what you guys said to see if maybe, we should look at it that way a little bit. We'll do that when we get back. This is Middays, Bob Cooney, 97.5 The Fanatic. 1:30 here at the Fanatic. Thanks for joining us as we take you in to the best show ever. Tyrone, Ricky, Silvana. They'll have a lot to talk about today. A lot of back and forth between the morning show and the best show ever. I think you guys heard some of it. Tyrone came on yesterday. I think his exact quote was, the morning show is really starting to get on my nerves. And I was in the car driving to pick up my son, and I just started laughing. And then the morning show came back again today. And so it's kind of nice to be the, I don't know, what are we, the brother that's just kind of on the sidelines watching the two of them go at it? Huh?
Switzerland?
Yeah, I don't want to be like, I don't want to be Switzerland. But I kind of just, I guess it's kind of like that. But yeah, just step aside, let those guys go at it. Sometimes it makes you look like the good guy. I don't think we're the good guy, and I don't think either one of them is the bad guy.
No, we're just there. Hey, how are you?
It's just funny to watch.
It spilled into the back, too. We got Dylan arguing this morning with the morning show.
Oh, my. Did you hear that?
I think everybody heard it.
Yeah, we actually had a boss come out and say, hey, guys, I know you do sports talk radio and stuff, but you can't be talking like you're in a bar. A little too loud. Got to keep that. Don't have to be in a church either, but
you love that it's genuine. There's nothing
so
worse than
spirited.
Than fake takes and all that. This is a genuine dispute, which I love, and what you get at this station. We give you real sports talk here.
All right, so the last question I put out to you guys was this. Oh, first of all, FanFest winner, Jeremiah Kia. Congratulations. He got a pair of tickets to FanFest. We're going to give away a couple more before we get out of here today. I'm feeling good today, Ray, so I'm giving them out. All right, so the questions I posed to you two guys. Whose shoulders is it on more in order for this outfield to get corrected a little bit? Dave Dombrowski to go out and maybe get a power hitting or some kind of a hitting left fielder, and then you can figure out center, and then Castellanos isn't going anywhere in right. Or Nick Castellanos. You guys both said, without hesitation, Dave Dombrowski. I will ask you this, and it's an honest question. I'm not, Ray, I'm not going against you. It's an honest question.
So we're going to fight.
No, we're not.
We're going to fight.
No, we're not.
Bare knuckle.
If Nick Castellanos were to hit 272 with 29 home runs and 106 RBI, would this be a discussion at all? Would we be okay that Brandon Marsh is your left fielder, that Johan Rojas is your center fielder, and the likes of a Dahl and a Whit Merrifield, and put this person's name here, would be platooning those other ones? Would this even be a conversation?
What's the question again?
If Castellanos was hitting the way he did last year, 276, 29, 106 RBI,
would we be wanting another bat in the outfield?
Would we be even having the conversation of, man, Rojas going down, this and that, you got to get a bat in left field? Would we even be having that conversation?
I think I would be. I
really?
do. I still think I would be because, and I've said it a bunch on this show today, our goal isn't to be a postseason team. Our goal is to win the World Series. Anything less isn't enough. And if you have the capability of upgrading those other two positions, which I think you do, I know we may have to give up some of these prospects to get it, but if that is the ultimate goal, and even if Castellanos was batting 280, I'd be saying there's a chance he disappears again in the postseason because that's what he's done throughout his career. And I don't just mean in the postseason, I mean at times, because he did show up in the postseason as well. I don't want to ignore that. But I would be saying we need to do everything we can to make this team a possible World Series champion. And to me, having a platoon in left field, having a platoon in center field with those bats, it's not enough if we want to beat the Dodgers, some of these better teams.
Okay. Ray, if Nick Castellanos, and I have another question off of this too now that you made me pop into my mind. Bill, if Castellanos were to be that 272, 29, 106 guy, and he's on pace for that right now, if he were, would we be having this conversation? Because this is what I'll go back to. We weren't really having this conversation at 42 and 19.
I mean, we were also in May. The trade deadline was still 2 months out. we weren't getting all the floating. We weren't getting as much of the floating of names. Luis Robert, who this town, I'll be honest with you, 3 weeks ago, Luis Robert, I think if people were talking about him, they were like, yeah, that guy. Now all of a sudden he's become the darling of everyone in the world in this town, where this is the end all be all of all creation here with baseball. I think that we were not in that position where people were having these conversations a few weeks ago, and now especially when we look at the production they've gotten from the outfield, yeah, I think we've just kind of moved on with that timeline of, okay, we're looking at this now. I don't know if necessarily we were in the mindset of let's make a move a couple weeks ago because that's just not that time of baseball season. I still don't think we're that much in that time of baseball season. We're just starting to get the ideas of who might be moved and where we're moving and what teams might be interested in moving off a certain player.
Do you think the conversation would be as hot if Castellanos was on pace like he was last year, of the numbers last year?
Yeah, I mean, because pitching right now is such a strength. I think everyone's always going to be looking to add to a team. Like when you get a team that's competing like this, and we look at the pitching staff, okay, they're going great. When you look towards the bullpen, like we had 1 day of bad Jose Alvarado. We had one bad game, and everyone was ready for a closer. We have now had sustained over months of lack of outfield production. Yeah, we're going to be clamoring for a bat. I think everything else is so good, which is why you're being pushed towards, all right, what can we do for that outfield? We're just obsessed with, you said earlier, perfection, but obsessed with that final puzzle piece to get over the top.
So, Bill, you brought up correctly earlier how up and down Castellanos is, his career in a season, maybe, down in the playoffs, up in the playoffs, all of that. With him at 209 right now, with him, we've seen it, flailing at times at the plate. You talked about your non-confidence in him as far as what he's doing. Is there any confidence that he's going to hit the upswing and it could last for a little while?
Sure.
Should we not have that?
No, I think that we should. I'm just saying that I don't think that you should rely on
Count on it? Right.
I think that we should look at Nick Castellanos and view Castellanos as when he gets hot, man, that's really going to put us over the top. But at the same time, you just can't rely on him to be hot because you never know when he disappears. I mean, look at last postseason.
Yeah.
In the NLDS, he was literally doing things that no one has ever done, not even Mr. October Reggie Jackson. He hits one home run, I think, to start NLCS Game 1, and then goes 0 for 20.
Yeah.
I mean, he went from, you talk about falling off a cliff, he dove head first into the rocks.
The other side of it for that is that the last two games of that series, they go 3 for 36 of all the guys you paid basically $1 billion.
Right.
Castellanos' fault. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Well, I say it all the time. Baseball's contagious.
It is.
Yeah, I'm not blaming him for them being.
I'm not blaming him for that. But I'm saying,
Diamondbacks, their credit. The way they were pitching, they adjusted. Like they adjusted their adjustments.
We're not throwing you strikes. Go ahead and swing.
Yeah, go ahead. Prove to us that you can lay off of it, and they didn't. That's why the entire offseason, all this spring training, was 2 words: chase rate. That's all you heard out of spring training. Oh, we're trying to cut down on what they're chasing. We're trying to cut down on what they're looking at. Like that's what this offseason was for them. If they weren't going to go out and make major differences with the lineup, they want to make a major difference from the way last year ended.
And it's so funny because you talk about chase rate, and we talked about last year in the slump among the highest paid players, what they had. Nick Castellanos isn't swinging the bat well this year, as we all know. It seems to me, especially as of late, is his way of getting out of like a hitting slump just to swing away? Because that seems to be what he's doing. He swings at every first pitch.
Yeah, I don't think
hell or high water, he's swinging.
I don't think he really has a plan. I mean, that's not Nick Castellanos.
I think that seems to be a plan now.
It's just swing away.
It really does, Bill. It's been weird. Like I told you, or you weren't here either. So our son just got back from North Carolina, right? He came over on Sunday, was watching the game with me. He didn't get to see a whole bunch of Phillies games down there. Castellanos comes up. I said, Kyle, $100 says he swings the first pitch. And he's like, what? Boom, swings first. He goes, where'd that come from? I said, he does it all the time anymore. Is that a good game plan, Bill? You know sports. You're not hitting all that well. Could a game plan be, instead of being more selective, no, I'm just going to go up there hacking?
I don't know, man.
Either do I.
I don't think so. Look, it hasn't worked for him. Well,
yeah.
It did last night, one game, but it hasn't worked for him.
The question also becomes, because I think early in the season they were talking about, hey, we kind of tried to coach him into what we want him to do, and it had him thinking too much. Like we've seen a couple weeks.
Don't think, just swing.
Yeah, like that might just be his game.
Yeah.
Like, and it's wild to say that, but this is also the same guy that came in here and his opening statement to Philadelphia was pretty much, yeah, I don't have a college degree. I just hit baseballs. Like, that's just like his mentality. It's the way that's just kind of how he's wired. Like, he goes out there and I want to hit the baseball. Like, I don't blame him for that one, almost. Like, if you're trying to coach him into being something he's not, and it ends up where he's hitting 190 to start the first 6 weeks of the season, you're like, hey, go nuts with what you want to do. It can't get much worse than that. So I'm okay with him kind of being the free swinging guy because that's what he is.
And I'm okay with them letting him be who he is. But that, to me, is the reason, though, you need to upgrade the other two positions because you know what Castellanos is going to do. He's going to go up there. He's going to swing away. He's either going to be red hot or he's going to be ice cold. That's fine. But you have to have a better bat either in center or left field. You can't rely on Dahl or Pache or even Brandon Marsh. And that's why I'm all in. Even if it takes trading Andrew Painter, I want Luis Robert Jr. here. I think you have him under contract through 2027. It's not a rental. This is a guy that will be a big part of that outfield for the foreseeable future when you already have this pitching staff locked up. You have these other stars locked up. Dombrowski, make it happen.
He probably will. I mean, if I had to be a betting man, I think I'd put my money that Dombrowski's going to rectify the small problem or any problem that this really, really good team may have to address. Now, I thought you had something to say.
No, I think he's going to address it. I don't know if it's going to be the star over the top.
No.
Like they're going to address.
Well, you mentioned like a fourth outfielder earlier.
Right. They're going to address the outfield. So the level of a Luis Robert, I can't say that I just believe that that's going to happen.
But if you go for outfielder, though, like I said earlier, don't you have like 3 of them already?
Well, by the time we get to the trade deadline, we're going to find out whether Dahl's first couple games here were just, wow, he ran into a couple, and that looked really fun for a while. We're going to see, we're going to get a long look at Whit Merrifield. Remember, Didi Gregorius was on the 2022 Phillies till August.
Yeah.
Like, Whit Merrifield's here for now. They want to give him a chance to hit. It's, the respect of, hey, we paid you $8 million and you're a veteran in this league. Like, we believe you can come out of this. Prove it to us. Christian Pache's on this team for now. Like, to me, is it always going to be getting the star, or is it going to be upgrading what options you have within that outfield? Because there's better options out here between the 191 hitting Whit Merrifield, David Dahl trying to break back into the major leagues, Christian Pache trying to continue to have a major league career, and then dialing all the way up to a former All-Star in Luis Robert. Like, I think there's a middle ground here that they could be shopping in that's not necessarily, wow, they had a guy who hit 38 home runs last year or the year before, versus, wow, they've got a guy that just got back into the bigs and a guy who's right now looks like hopefully his career's not ending in front of our eyes. Like, that to me, I think we love for the big swing, and I don't blame us for that one. But is there a swing somewhere in the medium between 191 hitting Whit Merrifield, 200 hitting Dahl, Christian Pache at 206 or whatever it was, and Luis Robert, who came off the injured list and now is just crushing every baseball out of the park?
Perception is something that makes me laugh a lot of times and thoroughly understand it. There's a situation, let me say, with the Phillies that kind of we've talked about but haven't talked about yet today. I want to bring that up in the last segment. This is Middays. Bob Cooney, 97.5 The Fanatic.
Oh.
back as we close things out here. 2 o'clock is our closing time as we take you to the best show ever. Tyrone, Ricky, and Silvana will be here to take you from 2 to 6 today. Just want to now let's see. We just celebrated Father's Day on Sunday. So, Bill, you are a father of 2.
Correct.
I am a father of 4. So that takes us to 6. Ray, you are a kid yourself. So that takes us to 7.
Okay, good.
So let's go with the 7th caller to get a pair of FanFest tickets at 215-263-0975. You better wipe that smirk off your face as if there's no little Ray.
I didn't know where that.
I know what you're thinking.
I didn't know where that was going.
I know you
End
didn't.
of show surprise.
You just better make sure you watch yourself. 215-263-0975. The 7th caller will get a pair of FanFest tickets. Hey, this just came over from the Phillies. They are going to celebrate one of the greatest pitchers in team history at Friday Toyota Cole Hamels retirement night. So they're going to have a Cole Hamels retirement night, and it is going to be on Friday, June 21st. That is
This Friday.
this Friday. So just a reminder that, his retirement night will be this Friday when they will be hosting the dreaded Arizona Diamondbacks. So that should be fun. I thought it was pretty cool that Hamels and so many of the 08 members of that team were over there, supporting the Phillies, but I also think supporting, what's his face, Chase Utley in his I do it on purpose, Ray. I hope you know that.
Yeah, I know you do.
So I thought that was pretty cool. All right. I talked about perception. I just want to get into this real quick. A lot of today's conversation, both on this show, the morning show, surrounded Nick Castellanos and, the struggles he's having. The morning show brought up, hey, you can't forget Bryson Stott. He's not getting it done either. And then they said something that I found interesting. How come nobody complains about Bryson Stott as much as they do Nick Castellanos? First thing that popped into my head was perception. My perception is, and John brings this up, that like Nick Castellanos carries this I don't really care attitude, and I don't dive into that. How a guy carries himself on the field, if he doesn't change expression, is fine with me. I don't really look into that. But could he be right that part of the perception is people think of that? Am I wrong in my perception, Bill, that I think while they are both struggling at the plate, to me, it seems like Bryson Stott has a lot better at bats, even though they may be outs also. Or do you not see it that way?
No, it's exactly what I was going to say to you.
Oh, is that right? Okay.
Is Bryson Stott has struck out 39 times this year. Nick Castellanos, 67 strikeouts, and they look hideous when he does it.
Yeah, right?
I mean, we're watching the game the other night when they were in Baltimore. There were runners on second and third. I was happy that Castellanos grounded out and didn't just strike out. That was a victory in watching Castellanos at bat. So I do think that you're spot on with that. It's the perception of, you look at the batting averages, sure, Stott needs to be better, but it does look like he gives you a lot better at bats than you get from Casty.
Are we not down enough on Bryson Stott?
We haven't talked nearly enough about his offensive struggles, I don't think, at all.
Because, give me why. I'll give you my reason why. Because I think he's going to turn it around.
Okay. I mean, that's fair. I'd say there's a multitude of reasons. One being the great defense at second base. I think people are happy to overlook that, but I don't think we're talking about the offensive struggles enough, a lot because first impressions matter. Your first impression of Bryson Stott was, this is the exciting young kid coming up that might make a difference for this team, and did make a difference for you in 2022 when you need someone in the middle infield, and he's kind of carried that along. Your first impression of Nick Castellanos was, here's 5 years, $100 million to a guy, and you're like, okay, I expect a certain level of player from that. His first year wasn't that. And I think first impressions in this town, we could say we change and we alter the way we feel about someone. It takes a lot to do that. And I think for a lot of people, he has not done enough in their mind to change their mind on him.
Okay. I don't know. I talk about feelings an awful lot. I guess I have things back it up. I love that he's a good two-strike hitter, which means he knows how to hit under pressure, which means when the slump continues, that's pressure. That's why I think I have confidence that Bryson Stott is going to break out of this slump that he's been in. I guess you could call it a yearly slump. I mean, he just hasn't been hitting.
A good 3 weeks. That's about it right now.
So he hasn't been hitting the way we expected him to. Andrew Steed, our winner for 2 FanFest tickets. Congratulations, Andrew. Can't wait to see you on September 28th. We also can't wait to talk to you tomorrow. We will be back here again, 10 a.m. tomorrow. We'll see how Amy's feeling. Hopefully she's better. Stay tuned for the best show ever.